Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the What If guy, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Issei comes back as singular point. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Old name, Issei Hyoudou. Nickname, pervert, disgusting perv. Old appearance, age, 17. Height, 5 feet 7 inches. Gender, male. Species, human. Former personality, Issei was a teenage boy who had a strong interest in women and aspired to become the Harem King. He was known to be arrogant and self-centered, often disregarding the consequences of his actions. Former likes, women, hanging out with friends. Former dislikes, school, getting caught, confrontations. New appearance, age, 1800 plus. Height, 6 feet tall. Gender, male. Species, unknown. Mutation. New personality. After a life-changing event, Issei's personality transformed completely. He no longer focused on his previous interests and became more serious and cold, preferring solitude due to the haunting memories of his past. However, if someone earns his trust, he can be quite kind and protective of those he cares about. New likes, solitude. New dislikes, arrogance, negativity, painful memories. Physical abilities, superhuman strength, superhuman durability, superhuman speed, superhuman stamina, superhuman reflexes, superhuman agility. Other abilities, regenerative healing factor. Issei can heal minor wounds almost instantly and may be able to regrow limbs or organs over time. Atomic breath. He can unleash a powerful beam of energy from his mouth, charging it before releasing it as a concentrated beam. Amphibiousness. Issei is an excellent swimmer, capable of moving swiftly through water. Evolution. He can adapt to his surroundings, potentially gaining new abilities as needed. Red dust manipulation. Issei can generate and manipulate a red dust from his body, creating protective clouds. Immortality. Although he can be killed, he will always return with enhanced abilities. Flammable ice vapor. He can exhale a vapor that, when ignited, creates a massive explosion. BLD tentacles. Issei can extend BLD from his wounds into tentacle-like forms for defense. Terraforming. He can create unique plant life that can alter the environment. Issei's forms: Godzilla Aquatilis, Godzilla Amphiba, Godzilla Terrestris, Godzilla Ultima. Third-person POV. A mysterious figure spoke. "Oh, you're finally here. What took you so long? Did you get lost or something? It doesn't really matter at this point." The figure continued, "Do you know what pain is like? The kind that makes you feel as if you're living in hell, begging for relief, only for it to worsen. I know that feeling. I once wished for it all to end, to escape the suffering. But I learned that I was something beyond human, a singular point." It was a regular day in the town of Kuo, with the sun shining and a gentle breeze rustling through the trees. Inside a 2-story house, the living room was well furnished, featuring a cozy couch, a coffee table, and a stylish kitchen. A staircase led to the upper floor, where 2 main bedrooms and a bathroom were located. In one of the bedrooms, it was slightly messy, with magazines and clothes scattered about. A large lump under the covers was accompanied by the sound of soft snoring. Suddenly, the alarm clock went off, displaying a video of a cheerful girl. A hand reached out to turn it off, revealing a brown-haired boy with a mischievous grin. "Say hi." Issei sat up, exclaiming, "Ah, what a morning." As he got out of bed, he accidentally stepped on one of his magazines, slipping and falling to the ground. Issei groaned in pain as he picked himself up from the floor, glancing at the magazine he had slipped on. "Maybe I should have put these away when I was done," he muttered to himself. Issei was an average 17-year-old boy, but he had one distinguishing trait. He was quite the pervert. His father had introduced him to adult material at a young age, and since then he had dreamed of becoming the HRM King. His mother, Miki, often scolded his father for corrupting their son, insisting that his obsession would prevent him from finding a girlfriend. This only fueled Issei's determination to achieve his goal. Chuckling to himself, Issei placed the magazine on his bed and looked out the window, squinting at the bright sunlight. "Geez, that's bright," he said just as his mother called out, "Hey, breakfast is ready. Get down here and eat." School is gonna start soon. He flinched at her loud voice, wondering if she was trying to wake the entire neighborhood. Shrugging, he decided to get dressed. Once in his school uniform, Issei made his way downstairs, the delicious smell of breakfast filling the air. In the kitchen, he found his mother and father. Mickey was the first to notice him. "Ah, finally out of bed. I thought I was going to have to break your door down again," she said with a teasing smile. Issei rubbed the back of his neck, chuckling. "Good thing you didn't, or we might have another incident like last time. This is why you need to stop reading those things, otherwise, you'll never get a girlfriend," Mickey warned. Issei puffed out his chest, declaring, "Never. Issei is life. I will become the Harem King, and no one is going to stop me." His father, Goru, wiped away a happy tear. "That's my boy. I'm so proud of you." Mickey playfully slapped the back of Goru's head, causing him to wince. "Silence. I'm still mad at you for corrupting our son," she said, glaring at him. Goru gulped nervously. "Why yes, ma'am. I'll be quiet." Issei felt a bit anxious under his mother's gaze, fearing her wrath. "Now eat your breakfast, Issei. You don't have much time before school starts," she instructed. Issei saluted her, eager to avoid any trouble. "Yes, ma'am." He quickly sat down to enjoy his pancakes topped with syrup, whipped cream, and strawberries. At Kuo Academy, Issei was running toward the main gate, breathing heavily as he raced against the clock. "I can't be late. I need to become the HRM King," he thought, gritting his teeth. Unbeknownst to him, a strange red dust began to emanate from him, causing birds to scatter in fear. Despite the close call, Issei arrived just in time, seconds away from being late. He wiped the sweat from his forehead, relieved. "Phew, that was a close one." "Issei." Turning around, he was greeted by his friends Matsuda and Motohama. They had been friends since he started at Kuo Academy, despite their occasional questionable antics. "Dude, you were nearly late. Just a few seconds away from suspension." Matsuda exclaimed. Issei shot him a deadpan look. "Yeah, I know," he replied. Matsuda protested. "Hey, I was just saying. And I don't need you reminding me." Issei snapped back, frustration evident in his voice. Later, Issei stood on a bridge, resting his arms on the railings as he sighed. Man, that was a rough day of school. The sun was slowly setting, casting a warm glow over the landscape. He didn't want to waste much time, but he just wanted to enjoy the cool breeze washing over his face. However, as Issei closed his eyes for a moment, something unexpected happened. He began to get visions that were unlike anything he anticipated. The first vision showed a red flying dinosaur creature soaring through the air on a bright and sunny day. The second vision depicted another version of the red dinosaur, but it appeared much larger and darker, as if shrouded in some kind of darkness. Issei noticed that it was flying through a city that looked very familiar to Kuo, though it couldn't be, as the buildings were covered in a strange red dust. Red dust? Issei thought, feeling an inexplicable familiarity with the term. But this was the first time he had even considered. Why did it feel so familiar? Suddenly, Issei's last vision was far worse than the others, plunging him into a nightmare. He found himself in a devastated Kuro, with fire raging everywhere, buildings and cars reduced to rubble. The trees were lifeless, the water turned BLD red, and the air was thick with a red mist. What happened? What's going on? What did this? Issei cried out, hearing the echoes of pain and agony all around him, the desperate pleas for help piercing through the chaos. What caught his attention was a low growl that drew him toward a massive fire before him, larger and more crimson than the others. Issei's eyes widened in fear as he took a step back, witnessing something rise from the flames. The sight filled him with despair and hopelessness. He stared at a true monster, something more than just a creature. He saw the rage and hatred in its eyes. What is that thing? He thought, overwhelmed by fear. Excuse me. Issei's eyes shot open, startled. He breathed slightly, placing a hand on his face. What was that? Excuse me. Turning toward the voice, he was greeted by an attractive young woman with violet eyes and a slender figure. She had long, silky black hair that cascaded down to her hips. But what caught Issei's attention was her outfit: a dark red jacket with the letter P embroidered in gold, a white undershirt, a red bow, and a green skirt with a thin white stripe at the hem. "What's that outfit? I've never seen it before. Is there another school in Kuo?" Issei asked, clearing his throat and offering a friendly smile. "Are you Issei Hyoudou by any chance?" she asked, her voice slightly trembling. "Yeah, that's me," Issei replied, feeling a mix of curiosity and caution. This girl knew who he was, raising red flags in his mind. Yet, she was cute, and he didn't want to be rude. "My name is Yuma, and I wanted to ask you something." "Oh, what do you want to ask me?" Issei prompted, noticing how cute she looked as she blushed. I was wondering if you wanted to be my boyfriend." Yuma's words shocked Issei. A girl actually asked him to be her boyfriend, something he never expected. "Please tell me I'm dreaming. This can't be real," he thought, but he quickly dismissed the idea. He wouldn't dream about Aika, that was too bizarre. "I'm sorry, I didn't hear you correctly. Did you say you want me to be your boyfriend?" Issei asked, trying to process her request. Yuma nodded, her cheeks flushed. Issei contemplated the situation. A girl he just met was asking him to be her boyfriend. He should say no and walk away, but the thought of missing out on a chance with an appealing girl was tempting. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? It's not like I'm going to die or anything, he reasoned, feeling a rush of excitement. The ocean, a vast expanse of blue water, is both appealing and dangerous. Perhaps it's due to the creatures that dwell within it, capable of causing harm, or the fear of being stranded in its depths. Humanity has explored only about 5% of the ocean, knowing more about space than their own planet. Yet, there exists a legend known worldwide, a giant monster called Ghidorah or Godzilla. The mere mention of its name sends shivers down even the bravest of men. They say when the sea turns red, the monster of the apocalypse will rise and bring about a great catastrophe. Many dismiss it as mere legend, but with so much of the ocean unexplored, perhaps there is some truth to it. It was an appealing day as birds soared high above the vast blue, but soon they began to fly in erratic directions, as if sensing something terrifying approaching. However, some of them weren't lucky as they suddenly died and fell into the water below. When this happened, the water began to turn red, not from blood since the birds couldn't bleed. Air bubbles started to appear, and it seemed as if something was coming to the surface of the water at a fast speed. Suddenly, a large creature resembling a pteranodon erupted from the water with its wings spread out. The creature was red in color, with a long beak curving upward at the tip, and its mouth was filled with teeth. Between the top and bottom of the upper beak was a row of uniform blue scales, starting a quarter of the way from the tip and ending at the eye. On the back of its head was a singular crest, covered in a yellow and white pattern that ran along its back to the end of its long tail. Along the creature's long neck was a blue dewlap, with the colors spreading along the bottom jaw and lower beak. Its forehead, back, and tail were adorned with blue fins, with veins running up each one. Rows of spikes lined its chest, tapering off along its stomach. The creature flapped its wings, hovering above the water as it let out a loud roar. With that, it began to fly toward the nearest land, leaving a trail of red smoke behind it. It was a casual day at Kuo Academy, where early arriving students chatted among themselves as others trickled in. Making her way toward the school was Rius, who appeared to be an average appealing young woman with a captivating figure. However, in secret, she was a devil, distinct from the demons of folklore. Devils were more intelligent, while demons relied on brute strength. Rius belonged to a powerful devil family and was next in line to lead her clan. At that moment, Rius was deep in thought. Where could he have gone? There's no way he survived that fallen angel attack. I saw his blood and some sort of red dust. In a flashback, Rius recalled sitting in her clubroom, waiting patiently. She had been informed by one of her servants that a boy named Issei Hyoudou had a date with a girl named Yuma, but Rius knew that Yuma was a fallen angel. Fallen angels were beings cast out of heaven for sinful actions. Rius was aware that fallen angels were in Kuo, but she chose to observe their plans first. It turned out they were sent to keep an eye on Issei, but it seemed they had decided to eliminate him. Rius had sensed that Issei possessed a sacred gear, powerful artifacts bestowed upon humans by the god of the Bible. To save Issei's life, she planned to reincarnate him as one of her servants, allowing him to live while gaining a new ally. She sent her familiar on the day of his date, providing Issei with a summoning circle. However, something went wrong. He should have summoned me by now. Maybe the fallen hasn't killed him yet. Rius waited, staring at the summoning circle, but nothing happened. Frustrated, she stood up. Aquino. A door opened, and Aquino, Rius's best friend and queen, entered. Aquino was an appealing young woman with long black hair and violet eyes, tied in a ponytail with an orange ribbon. Yes, Rius. How may I assist you? Aquino asked, bowing. I'm going to check where Issei and the fallen are. I'll contact you if I need backup, Rius replied. As you command, Aquino said, bowing again. Rius summoned a transporting magic circle and stepped onto it. The circle glowed red, and she soon disappeared from Aquino's sight, reappearing at Kuo Park. The sun was setting, and no one was around. Strange, Issei and that fallen should be here. The magic circle should have teleported me to where that paper was, but it's here. Rius looked around and saw nothing, but then noticed a fountain with some BLD kneeling down. She touched the BLD and found it still warm. It's still warm, which means this happened about a minute ago. But where is Issei's body? The fallen couldn't have taken it. She would have no use for it. As Rius pondered, she noticed something next to the BLD, some sort of red dust. Red dust. Rius reached to touch it, but pulled her hand back, feeling a sense of unease. Rius exclaimed, "What the hell was that?" When she touched the red dust, it felt like it was doing something to her, but she couldn't quite understand what. All she knew was that it didn't feel good. This red dust is strange. I've never seen anything like it before. I've never even heard of red dust before. She glanced back at the BLD and then at the red dust, wondering if whatever happened to Issei was connected to it. I'll have to take a sample and give it to Sona, see what she thinks about it. As Rius contemplated the situation, she sighed, still puzzled. What does that red dust have to do with Issei's body disappearing? It makes no sense. Determined to find answers, she decided to visit Sona. Making her way inside the school building, Rius heard the chatter of other students. Some were talking about her, but she didn't pay attention, her mind was elsewhere. Soon, she arrived at the student council building, climbing to the 3rd floor. She knocked on the door and waited for a response. "Come in," came the voice from inside. Rius opened the door and stepped in, closing it behind her. She saw Sona Citri, her childhood friend, sitting at a desk, engrossed in paperwork. Sona, also a devil from a prominent family, had changed her last name to blend in when they first arrived in Kuo, a decision Rius had not felt the need to make. "Ah, hello Rius. It's good to see you again," Sona greeted her, looking up from her work. "It's good to see you too, Sona. How's the paperwork?" Rius asked, a hint of amusement in her voice. "Frustrating, but I knew I would have to handle a lot since becoming student council president. But I'm sure that's not why you're here." Sona replied, knowing Rius well enough to sense her urgency. "I came to see if you have discovered what that red dust is," Rius said. Sona paused, placing down her paperwork and opening a drawer. Rius watched as Sona retrieved a flower pot with a small, appealing flower, noticing some of the red dust on it, slowly spreading. "It seems this red dust is parasitic, but it isn't alive. I analyzed it and discovered it to be some sort of archetype," Sona explained. "An archetype? What do you mean?" Rius asked, her curiosity piqued. Archetypes refer to a group of exotic materials. It seems to have taken the form of this red dust, and its occurrence creates some kind of reaction, Sona elaborated. Rius nodded, trying to understand. "What else did you find?" "After further analysis, I discovered that the molecule is transdimensional. It extends out and can touch other dimensions, with part of it existing in another dimension at any given time," Sona continued. "Transdimensional. How could something so small do that?" Rius was taken aback. "I'm not sure, But I suspect there is something out there capable of manipulating the archetype, Sona theorized. Rius felt a chill at the thought. She didn't want to believe it, but the idea of someone or something controlling the red dust, which could reach other dimensions, frightened her. Sona cleared her throat, shifting the conversation. Have you heard about the legend that humans speak of? Rius shook her head. No, I haven't. What's this legend? Sona stood and walked to a bookshelf, returning with an old, slightly torn book. She placed it on the desk, and both girls stared at it in silence. Rius reached out and opened the book, flipping through the pages until Sona told her to stop. Rius's eyes widened in shock at the illustration before her. A man on a small raft battling winged monsters, with a monstrous fish-like creature lurking nearby. Sona, what is this? Rius asked, her voice barely above a whisper. This is the legend I mentioned. They say when the sea turns red, the apocalyptic beast shall appear and start the great catastrophe that will end everything, Sona explained. Rius felt a wave of disbelief wash over her. She wanted to dismiss it as mere myth, but as someone involved in the supernatural, she knew better. Let's just hope this legend remains just that. A legend. As she sat in her clubroom, Rius Gremory pondered deeply, the weight of the situation pressing heavily on her mind. Standing beside her was her best friend and queen, Akino. Sitting on one of the two couches was a white-haired girl with amber eyes named Kaneko, who was Rius's rook piece. Kaneko was a girl who didn't talk much, disliked inappropriate behavior, but had a strong affection for sweets. Currently, Rius was deep in thought as Sona's words echoed in her mind. When the sea turns red, the apocalyptic beast shall appear and start the great catastrophe that shall be the end of everything. Is it true? No, it can't be true, it's only a legend. But what if it is real? Rius had heard many legends during her time in the human world, such as Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and the Wendigo. However, she didn't believe in any of them, knowing they weren't real. As a devil in the supernatural world, she had never encountered such creatures. Yet, despite her skepticism, she felt a nagging sense that this particular legend might hold some truth. Why do I think it's real? There's no way it could be real. I'll have to ask my brother if he knows anything about this legend when I call him. Akino broke the silence. Is something wrong, Rius? This snapped Rius out of her thoughts. I'm fine, Akino, no need to worry about me, she replied. Akino, however, sensed something was off. Are you sure? You seem very distracted. Is there nothing on your mind? Rius reassured her, yes, I'm all right. Akino could tell something was troubling her friend but chose not to press further. Suddenly, the door to the clubroom opened, and Kiba entered. He was a handsome young man with short blonde hair, blue eyes, and a mole beneath his left eye. Kiba was well known around Kuo, often referred to as the Prince of Kuo by the girls, who flocked to him in droves. Hello Kiba, how was your trip here? Did you get swarmed by your fangirls? Rius asked with a teasing smile. Kiba replied deadpan, no, I went to watch some shows and listen to music, what do you think? The three girls nearly giggled at his words. Kiba then asked, so, what's going on? Kaneko replied, don't know yet, Rius was thinking of something. Rius sighed slightly as her friends looked at her. It's nothing, don't worry about it. She then turned her attention to Akino. Any news on any stray devils in the area? It's been a while since we faced one. Akino nodded, actually, yes. I recently got word from the Great Duke that there is a stray devil very close by. Rius smiled slightly, looking at Kaneko and Kiba. You two ready to go take down a stray devil? Both Kaneko and Kiba smirked. You bet, Kiba said, and Kaneko nodded. Rius's smile widened. All right then, let's move out. As night fell over Kuro, the townspeople were fast asleep in their warm homes, unaware of the dangers lurking outside. A bright red light appeared outside an abandoned warehouse, where Rius, Akino, Kiba, and Kaneko gathered. So, this is where the stray devil is located, Rius said, eyeing the building. Kaneko remarked, seems like a place one would be. Kiba agreed, yeah. Rius felt a sense of foreboding as she stared at the warehouse, sensing that something bad might happen. Akino noticed Rius's reaction but held her tongue, deciding to ask her later. Rius took a step forward and addressed her team. "All right then, let's head in and take down this stray devil." They all responded, "Issei." Kaneko approached the door, ready to use her strength to break it open, but paused when she noticed it was slightly ajar. "The door's open," she said. Kiba added, "Well, that makes things a little easier for us." As they entered the dark warehouse, they found it eerily quiet, with broken crates and debris scattered about. Rius and her friends guessed it had once been a shipping facility. Thanks to Kaneko's enhanced senses, she could see better in the dark. "Smells like Akino's room," she quipped. Akino shot back, "And how would you know what my room smells like?" Kaneko replied, "You forget I have enhanced senses." Kiba chuckled, "She got you there, Akino." Akino retorted, "Oh, go sit down, Kiba." Suddenly, a voice echoed from the shadows, "Oh, what do we have here?" Rius and her team turned to see a figure emerging from the darkness. "Reveal yourself," Rius commanded. A giggle followed, and a young woman with long black hair stepped into view. "I know who you are, Visser," Rius stated firmly. "Why, yes, I am," Visser replied, a sly smile on her face. "And who may you be?" Rius's expression grew serious as the confrontation began. "Rius, Visser, you are hereby ordered to return to your or you shall be terminated." Visser simply laughed, taunting Rius about her appearance. This caused Rius's right eye to twitch in annoyance. A red aura began to cover Rius's body as she glared at Visser, ready to teach her a lesson. Visser revealed her true form, a beastly lower half with 4 legs and a snake-like tail. Rius shouted, "Take this down." Kaneko charged forward, leaping towards Visser, who swiped at her with a claw. Kaneko punched the claw away and struck Visser in the face, sending her flying across the warehouse. Kaneko exclaimed, "Meow." Visser gritted her teeth, getting back on her feet and retaliating with magical beams from her body. Rius and her peerage dodged the beams as they struck the warehouse walls. Rius remarked, "TTTY lasers. That's a new one." Akino agreed, surprised by the unexpected attack. Kiba narrowed his eyes, readying his swords. "My turn." In an instant, Kiba slashed off both of Visser's front claws, causing her to scream in pain. Confused, she wondered what had attacked her, as it had moved too quickly for her to see. Suddenly, pain engulfed her body as slash marks appeared all over. A voice declared, "I'm going to." Visser turned to see Kiba, and fear filled her as she saw his sadistic grin. Rius sighed, "Kiba, down boy. No need to scare her." "Well, that much." Kiba chuckled, realizing he might have gone too far. Visser stammered, What the hell are yo?" but was cut off by a lightning strike from Akino, who smiled as she unleashed a barrage of lightning bolts on Visser. Akino's sinister aura intensified as Visser's screams echoed throughout the warehouse. Rius had placed a barrier to keep the chaos contained. Akino relished in the sounds of Visser's pain, causing Rius, Kaneko, and Kiba to step back in concern. Kiba nervously suggested, "Shouldn't you stop her, Rius?" Rius sighed, realizing it was time to intervene. "Akino, that's enough, down girl." Akino pouted but eventually ceased her attacks, leaving Visser charred and barely alive. Rius approached the defeated Visser with a smirk. "Now then, any last words?" Visser attempted to respond, but before she could finish, a creature burst through the ceiling. Rius shouted, "Look out!" The group dodged as the creature landed on Visser, biting and clawing at her. Visser screamed for help, but her cries were silenced as the creature bit her head off, blood gushing out. Rius and the others watched in horror as the creature devoured Visser's head in one swift motion, making them feel nauseous. However, they had more pressing matters as they observed the creature tearing into Visser's charred body. Akino asked, "Rius, what is that thing?" "I don't know, but it resembles a pterodactyl. But it can't be one since those are extinct," Rius replied. "Doesn't look extinct to me," Kiba remarked. The creature suddenly stopped its feast and turned its attention to Rius and her peerage, tilting its head curiously, like a dog with a new toy. It sniffed them as they stood frozen in place. In an instant, the creature charged at them, attempting to bite, but the devils managed to dodge the attack. Geez, it went from curious to aggressive in an instant, Kiba said. No kidding, Kaneko added. The creature snarled as Kaneko charged towards it with blazing speed. Meow, she exclaimed, going in for a punch, but the creature jumped back and landed on some wooden crates. It dodged Kaneko's punch. This thing must be intelligent or really fast, Rius noted. The creature let out a loud roar, causing Kaneko to cover her ears due to her enhanced senses. Kaneko! Kiba shouted, drawing his sword and charging at the creature, hoping to land a hit. However, the creature dodged again, causing Kiba to only slash the wooden crates. It dodged Kiba's attack as well. This creature must be skilled, Akino observed. Suddenly, the creature looked up as if it heard something, then jumped and began to flap its wings. Rius and her peerage watched as it gained height and let out another roar, almost as if it was calling for something. Rius hoped it wasn't summoning reinforcements, fearing her peerage wouldn't be able to handle a whole army. But her worry faded as the creature came crashing down to the ground with a loud thud. What just happened? Kiba asked. Kaneko sniffed the air and covered her nose, capturing everyone's attention. What's wrong? Akino inquired. It's dead, Kaneko replied. The group was shocked and approached the creature's body. Kiba poked it with his sword, confirming it was lifeless. Why did it die all of a sudden? It has no wounds whatsoever, so what killed it? Akino wondered. Rius stared at the creature's body, convinced she saw something on the ground beneath its head. She thought, what is this thing? Where did it come from? And better question is, how many more are there? Meanwhile, beneath the vast blue sea, where the creature had originally come from, there was silence on the surface. However, deep underwater, in a massive cave shrouded in darkness, something stirred. The sound of a creature snoring echoed through the cave, deep and loud, indicating its enormous size. Suddenly, the snoring stopped, and a massive yellow eye with a black reptilian slit pupil opened in the darkness. Whatever it was now awake, and who knew what could happen next? In an unknown location, a appealing landscape unfolded, filled with lush green trees, clear blue water, and a magnificent waterfall. Various creatures inhabited this paradise, including birds, lizards, mammals, and even dragons. Among them, one dragon stood out. An appealing voice echoed through the air, captivating all who heard it. Sitting near the waterfall was a woman with long light blue hair and light red eyes, adorned with gigantic horns. This was Tiiamat, known by many names, including the Dragon King and the Primordial Mother. As Tiiamat sang, many creatures listened, enchanted by her melody. However, she soon paused, sensing something powerful and dangerous in the human world. What is this energy I sense? I've never felt anything like it before, Tiiamat pondered, realizing it was not a devil, angel, fallen, or even dragon. I must find out what this energy is. I must know, she resolved. Meanwhile, sailing across the vast ocean was a small fishing boat that appeared to have weathered the years. The boat had a mixture of colors, with a brownish-red bottom and a blue top, accented by white stripes. Despite its age, the boat appeared sturdy, a relief for anyone out at sea. On the top deck stood an elderly man who looked to be in his 40s or 50s, with white hair and ocean blue eyes. He wore a traditional fisherman outfit, complete with a tattered shirt, overalls, and high rain boots. Taking a deep breath of the sea-salty air, he sighed and smiled. Ah, what an appealing day for fishing. I wonder what kind of fish I will catch today, he mused, gazing out at the vast expanse of blue. He had loved the ocean since he was a boy, having been brought along on fishing trips by his father and grandfather. He recalled a time when his father caught a huge fish but slipped and ended up in a comical situation, causing laughter that echoed across the water. Another memory surfaced of his grandfather accidentally ripping his breaths while casting a line, only realizing it an hour later. The elderly man chuckled at the fond memories. Those were some good times, I will never forget them, he thought. But then, a story from his grandfather's past came to mind, a tale of a monstrous creature rising from the sea when the water turned red. As a child, he had believed every word, And even now, he wondered if such a creature could exist. With 95% of the ocean unexplored, he mused, perhaps it was still out there, lurking in the depths. Maybe my grandfather was right, maybe it is out there, he pondered, feeling a thrill at the thought. He returned to his fishing, but soon his attention was drawn to a pod of whales surfacing nearby. It was a rare sight, and he rushed to grab his camera, eager to capture the moment. I must take a picture of this, it's such a rare sight, he said, snapping photos of the mother, father, and baby whale. The beauty of the scene warmed his heart, but then he noticed something unsettling in the distance. The water was turning red, not from BLD, but as if the color itself was shifting. What is going on? Why is the water changing color? He wondered, but his thoughts were interrupted by the uneasy sounds of the whales. Confusion washed over him. What could frighten such massive creatures? Suddenly, something enormous surged from the water with blinding speed. The elderly man caught a glimpse of it, an immense creature, perhaps double or triple the size of an adult whale. It resembled something out of a fantasy tale, red with a lighter underbelly, and its soulless eye sent chills down his spine. In its jaws was the baby whale, torn in half. The sight made him feel ill. This was not survival. It felt like sport. What was that thing? I've never seen anything like it, he exclaimed, his mind racing. Could this be the creature his grandfather spoke of, the one that appeared when the sea turned red? He realized he needed to get back to land quickly before he became the next target. I gotta get out of here, he started, but before he could finish, a massive shadow loomed over him. He looked up just in time to see the creature leap from the water, landing on his boat and completely destroying it. A woman with brown hair and blue eyes appeared on a TV screen holding a sheet of paper. Dressed in a standard news reporter outfit, she began, "Good morning, people of Kuo. We bring breaking news. There have been rumors of mysterious flying creatures sighted all over the world." Multiple images flashed on the screen, showing sightings of the same red creature that Rius and her peerage had encountered in the warehouse. Currently seated in her chair with her queen and childhood friend, Rius stared at the TV screen alongside them. Sona looked at Rius and said, "So you weren't kidding, it really did look like a dinosaur." Rius nodded. "But it doesn't make any sense," Sona continued. "Dinosaurs were wiped out 65 million years ago. How can these even be alive?" Rius replied, "I'm not sure, but what I do know is that whatever it was just died for no reason. It had no injuries or signs of bleeding. Why did it just die?" Aquino chimed in, "Well, this is my theory. Maybe it died because it entered an area it didn't know about. I've heard that some animals may die if they venture into unfamiliar territory." Sona considered this. "That could be a possibility, but I will have my peerage take a closer look at the creature's body and see what they can find." The three then turned their attention back to the TV as the newswoman continued to explain the sightings. She cleared her throat and added, "However, we recently heard that there have been sightings of something else as well. Something much different from the flying creatures." This caught Rius, Aquino, and Sona's attention as they wondered what else could be out there besides the flying creatures. The sun was high in the sky, making it seem like a regular peaceful day in the small town of Kuo. Birds flew through the sky as a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the trees. At Kuo Academy, students chatted among themselves as they arrived at school. Standing under a shady tree, a teenage boy with black to charcoal gray hair and yellow eyes watched the students walk through the gates of Kuo. As he observed, some red dust fell from his hair. "Well then, I think it's time to welcome myself back to my old stomping grounds. Can't stay here for long, otherwise, someone will notice me." Despite not wanting to return to Kuo Academy, he was determined to avoid the hardships he had faced before. He had suffered immensely, feeling as though he had endured a millennium of pain, calling for help but receiving only silence. When it was finally over, he thought it was the happiest day of his life, but he had learned many lessons from his experiences that would stay with him forever. Gritting his teeth at the memories, he muttered, "Like hell I'm going through that again. Never again." His eyes glowed slightly as he made his way toward the school gate. As he walked through the gate, all eyes turned to him. He had barely stepped into Kuo Academy, and already he had attracted attention. He thought to himself, now I know what it feels like to be an anime character. The new student always seems to be the popular one. But technically, I'm not a new student, I'm an old one returning. He began to hear whispers from the other students, starting with the girls. Hey, who is that guy? One asked. I'm not sure, but I gotta say he's pretty attractive. Do you think he's single? Another replied. I hope he isn't a troublemaker like Hyoudou, a third added. The boy felt a mix of offense and amusement at their comments. They are going to be in for a shock, he thought. Then he heard the boys. Who the heck is this guy? One exclaimed. I don't know, but he's getting all the girls' attention. Another said. BS sturdy, a third added. He sighed at their remarks. Seriously, I leave for like a week, and this is the welcome I get. This caught the students' attention. The hell are you talking about? One boy asked. The black-haired boy deadpanned. You're kidding me, right? Please tell me some of you recognize me. Seeing multiple heads shake in response, he sighed in annoyance. Was it really that hard to recognize him? Come on. It's me, say. Silence filled the air as the students stared at him in shock. What? They exclaimed. Yeah, it's me, say. How can you guys not recognize me? Well, first of all, your hair is black, one boy replied. Wow, that's a bit harsh, Issei shot back. Oh, go away, the boy retorted. Issei simply rolled his eyes. Issei, but I'm not the gay one. Boy 2, yeah, that's my job. Boy 3, excuse me, what? Issei couldn't help but sweat drop at this turn of events. Issei. Issei turned to the sound of the voice and dodged an incoming punch from one of his friends, Motohama and Matsuda. They had been Issei's best friends ever since they first got to Kuo Academy. Before the incident that caused Issei immense suffering, the trio was known as the most disliked group at school. They often tried to sneak peeks at a group of girls known as the Kendo Girls, which usually ended with them getting into trouble. Now that Issei was back after what felt like a nightmare, he wasn't sure if he could return to his old ways. Issei, hey, you two, why did you try to attack me? Matsuda, do you have any idea how worried we were? We thought you left us for good. Issei, well, I'm back and I'm not going anywhere. Motohama, which means the pervert trio is back in action. As Matsuda and Motohama began to celebrate, Issei sighed and started to walk away. Matsuda, Issei, where are you going? Issei, I'm going to class. See you around. With that, Issei made his way into the school building. As he walked down the hallways, he heard whispers about him. Some good, some not so much, but it didn't matter to Issei. He was glad to be back in a familiar place, even if he missed the freedom he felt in his aquatic form. As Issei continued to walk, he noticed some red dust coming off him, but thankfully, no one seemed to notice. Issei stood in front of his old classroom door, feeling a sense of déjà vu from when he first arrived at Kuo Academy. Back then, he was just a typical teenage boy with a perverted personality, but now he had changed significantly. Issei, well, let's get this over with. Can't wait out here forever. He knocked on the door and waited for a moment before hearing a voice tell him to come inside. Come in. Issei opened the door and walked into the classroom, receiving stares from his classmates and a slight smile from his teacher. Teacher, Issei Hyoudou. I see you have returned after being gone for a whole week. Issei, yeah, sorry it took so long. I had some things to do. The teacher sighed. Teacher, just don't do it again. You've missed a lot of homework and assignments. Issei waved off the concern, knowing he had little choice in the matter. Issei, yeah. He turned his attention to his classmates, who stared at him with a mix of shock, awe, and disgust. He understood the disgust, given his past behavior, but it had been a week since he had been gone. Issei, hey all, how's it going? Miss me? Silence was the only response he received. Issei, okay then, tough crowd. He made his way back to his old seat, which was just as he left it, though a bit dusty. He shrugged it off and sat down. A voice interrupted his thoughts. So, you got a new hair color, Hyu. Issei turned to see Aika Kiryu, a appealing girl with spectacles and lightly messy brunette hair tied into braids. Issei, oh, hey glasses girl. I did get a new hair color. Aika noticed Issei's eyes were a different color as well, which surprised her. Aika, why your eyes, they're yellow. This caught the attention of the entire class, who were shocked to see the change. Issei, yeah, my eyes are yellow. I know it's rare, but I didn't think it would be this shocking. Girl 1, what are you talking about? Yellow eyes have never been a thing. It's always been blue, green, brown, hazel, and sometimes red. But yellow? That's never been seen before. Issei shrugged. Issei, I guess I'm special then, even though I don't feel special. He almost chuckled but held back, not wanting to come off as arrogant on his first day back. Aika then decided to use her secret technique on Issei, which caused her to faint in surprise. This sudden act caused the other girls to worry for their fellow student as the boys were just confused about what had just happened. Girl 1, Aika, are you okay? Girl 2, speak to us. Girl 3, what happened? You were fine a second ago. Aika, it's massive. It's bigger than any I've ever seen before. A true monster. This left the class puzzled as they wondered what the brown-haired girl was talking about. Aika was known for her peculiar ability to gauge things just by looking. Issei raised an eyebrow. Issei, she looked at me for 5 seconds and now she's on the ground. Well, I wasn't expecting this. The class turned their attention to Issei, piecing together Aika's words, their faces turning nearly as red as tomatoes. Aika had essentially implied that Issei was well endowed. The other boys shot jealous glares at Issei, who sighed in response. Issei, this is why I didn't want to come back. As Issei made his way out of class, hands in his pockets, he noticed the stares he received throughout the day. It didn't bother him much, but some moments felt annoying, especially when girls kept glancing his way. Issei, thanks a lot, Aika. Now there are going to be rumors about that for the rest of my life. I wish I could just go back to my old life. Suddenly, images of his past flashed through his mind, causing him to grit his teeth. Why did he have to think about that? Things had been going well until now. Shaking his head, Issei exited the school building, hoping to enjoy his lunch in peace, away from the attention. However, he soon realized something that made him want to punch himself. He had forgotten to bring lunch. He had only transformed into his new human form a few hours ago and had taken forever to reach Kuo. Unfortunately, he hadn't planned for food. He couldn't go back home, as his parents would question his sudden disappearance, but they should have been notified by the school by now. If they had, they would likely be at the school looking for him. But they weren't, which could only mean one thing. Something had happened to them. Issei didn't see anything alarming in the newspapers he passed on his way to Kuro, so he concluded that his parents were fine. Pinching the bridge of his nose, he sighed, trying to calm himself. Issei, okay, I need to calm down. Everything is all right. Nothing bad is happening. He was interrupted by the feeling of being watched. Turning quickly, his yellow eyes met a sight he recognized all too well. Rius, the most appealing girl in all of Kuo, practically the queen of the place. All the boys were infatuated with her, and all the girls aspired to her beauty. Before his death, Issei remembered her looking down at him and his friends for just a moment before she turned away, leaving him blushing. But this time felt different. His senses were heightened. He could smell something unusual about her, indicating she wasn't entirely human. Issei's eyes locked onto Rius's, and they stared at each other for a moment. A small grin spread across Issei's face, revealing sharp fangs. Issei, well Rius, whatever you are, let's hope you don't try to fight me. Because if you do, I'll have to declare the end upon you, plus I may need you to finish the ritual. Issei continued to stare at Rius as a small toothy grin formed on his face. It felt as if they were peering into each other's souls, neither moving for a solid 3 minutes. Eventually, Rius walked away, leaving Issei staring at the empty space where she had been. A chuckle escaped him. Issei, well now, things are getting interesting. Meanwhile, Rius sat on a sofa, staring at a chessboard in front of her, with her queen and best friend Aquino beside her. Rius, Aquino. How is he back? Aquino looked at Rius, puzzled. Aquino, what do you mean, Rius? Who is back? Akino noticed that Rius had a serious expression on her face, indicating the importance of the situation. Rius replied, Issei Hyoudou. He is somehow back after a whole week of disappearing. This left Akino shocked. That's impossible. He was killed by the fallen angels. You even saw his BLD at the park, right? Akino pressed. Rius nodded. I did, but I also saw that red dust that Sona told me about. I think I noticed some on that creature Rodden, Akino interjected, catching Rius's attention. Excuse me? Rius asked. I got word from your brother that the creature we encountered will be known as Rodden. I'm not sure why, but that's what he said. Rius sighed slightly, not at the name of the monster but at the fact that her brother had decided it. He had always wanted to name a new species of creature, and it seemed this was his chance. Anyways, I saw some red dust on Rodden's body. So the red dust must have a connection to Issei, Rius concluded. Well, what shall we do then? Should we leave him be or shall we question him? Akino asked. Rius went silent, contemplating the potential consequences of questioning Issei. It could lead to a confrontation, but if they left him alone, she wouldn't learn more about the red dust or how he was alive. After a moment of thought, she let out a small sigh. I'm not sure. I'll think about it. But for now, I need a shower. Rius stood up and walked into a room with a shower, turning it on as the water enveloped her. She began to think about Issei and what she saw in his yellow eyes. Those eyes. They weren't the eyes of a pervert. They were the eyes of an apex predator. Issei Hyoudou. Who or what are you? Meanwhile, Issei had found his two friends, Matsuda and Motohama, who were distracted by some inappropriate books and DVDs. As they were engrossed, some girls nearby looked at the trio with disdain, making harsh comments about them. Those three are the worst, one girl said. Filthy perverts, another added. I knew that Hyoudou was always the same pervert as usual, a third chimed in. Issei, lost in thought, barely noticed their comments. He reflected on how annoying the place could be and felt relieved that none of these distractions were part of the ritual. As he pondered, Matsuda and Motohama tried to get his attention, which proved difficult. Sit, sit, sit. Matsuda called out. Sit. Wake up. Motohama added, his tone more urgent. Annoyed by their persistence, Issei delivered a strong punch to both of their faces, causing them to stumble back. He glared down at them, his yellow eyes shining. Will you two be quiet? You're giving me a headache. Recovering from the surprise, the two boys glared back. Well, you weren't Matsuda began. I don't care about your books or DVDs. You're nothing to me. I could easily end both your pathetic lives. Issei snapped. His words left both Matsuda and Motohama frozen in shock and fear. The onlookers who had known Issei for a long time were also taken aback. They had never seen him this angry before. Before Issei could say more, the school bell rang. You're lucky, he muttered before turning and walking back inside the school building, passing other students as he remained deep in thought. Stupid humans. Annoying me. I don't know why I became their friend in the first place. If I have to listen to their annoying voices one more time, I might just lose it, he thought. Issei snapped back to reality when he heard excited screams from both males and females. Turning to see the commotion, he quickly realized it was Rius Gremory, the most appealing girl in the school. As she walked down the hallway, Issei couldn't help but feel annoyed at the attention she received. He had once admired her beauty, but he was no longer the same person he used to be. With a determined stride, Issei made his way through the school, knowing he couldn't return home. If he did, his parents would likely want to know where he had been. Issei wasn't in the mood to deal with crying, hugging, or anything else his parents might do. He sighed slightly and shook his head. I'm really not in the mood, he muttered to himself. Suddenly, he stopped walking as he felt a strange killing intent. The sky shifted from an orange hue to a dark purple, prompting him to raise an eyebrow. Okay, unless I'm imagining things, this shouldn't be happening, he said, glancing around. Then, he heard footsteps and turned to see a man approaching. The man wore a pale gray trench coat over a white dress shirt with a matching ascot, black breeches and shoes, along with black gloves and a fedora. How unfortunate to bump into someone like you in a place like this, the man remarked. Issei raised an eyebrow and sniffed the air, narrowing his eyes as he recognized the man's scent. You smell just like the one who killed me a week ago, he growled. The man looked at him with wide eyes, then smirked. To think I'm meeting the brat who Rainier failed to kill since you're still alive. Issei's growl deepened, sounding almost animalistic. Yeah, I'm alive. Got a problem with that. Are you, Rainier's acquaintance or something? The man chuckled, and suddenly, 2 large black feathered wings sprouted from his back. Issei's memories of Rainier flashed through his mind, and seeing those wings filled him with rage. Red dust began to flow off his body into the air, catching the man's attention. What is that stuff? Is it part of his sacred gear? Is he a devil? He doesn't feel like one. What is this brat? The man wondered, his eyes widening as the red dust intensified. An image flashed through his mind, something terrifying, a huge monster with gray scales and soulless yellow eyes, embodying death and chaos. The man took a step back in fear, sweat running down his face. What the hell was that? What are you, brat? Are you some stray? Where is your MSTR? Issei glared at the man, his eyes glowing yellow with a hint of red. No one is my MSTR and no one will be. Nothing will stop me from completing the ritual. Ritual? What are you talking about? Answer me. The man demanded, but Issei remained silent, fed up with his questions. Just then he dodged a spear that flew past him, similar to the one Rainier had used. This one, however, was blue to aqua in color. Great, another spear. Do all these crows throw spears? Why not swords or something better? Issei thought, turning back to see the man grinning maliciously. The man, frustrated by Issei's silence, decided to attack. Since I don't sense your aura, it seems like you are a stray, which means I can kill you. Issei's growl intensified. How dare this man think he would serve anyone? He had been through too much to give his life up to a... As the man prepared to attack again, he noticed a small blue glow coming from Issei's mouth, causing him to take a step back in fear. What is happening to me? Why can't I move? What did he do to me? The ring of energy held its position as Issei opened his mouth wide, and a long blue beam of energy fired forth, creating a shockwave that sent the man crashing into a tree, injuring one of his wings. The man gritted his teeth in pain, staring in shock as the blue beam pierced through the clouds, illuminating the night sky. Issei maneuvered the beam to slice through the upper half of the tree above the man, who looked up just as the tree fell, pinning him to the ground. Issei closed his mouth, the blue glow fading, and snorted as smoke began to rise from his nostrils. He approached the man, standing over him with a sinister grin. The sight of the grin caused the man to feel a surge of fear, for he was now facing not a boy but a true monster. Issei smirked. Well then, you weren't that tough. That was my first time using that attack, and I barely had to do anything. The man gritted his teeth, glaring at the black-haired boy, furious at being made a fool. Diamen, you brat. When I get out of this, I'm gonna what? Kill me. Issei interrupted with a small laugh, his eyes shining a bright yellow. I've already died, I've been through hell and back. And now, I declare the end will be upon you all. The man's eyes widened as he saw a familiar glow begin to emanate from Issei's mouth. Such a shame you weren't a part of the ritual. So you weren't really important, Issei continued, leaving the man confused. What ritual? Issei grinned wider. Well, since you're about to die, I'll tell you about the ritual. The man waited silently for the answer, convinced he would break free and escape with new information. Sarah ofim de terra. Before the man could respond, Issei unleashed a blue beam that turned him into a charred corpse, scorching the tree and ground around them. Issei continued the attack even after the man was dead, showing no remorse. Eventually, he closed his mouth as the glow faded away. With the man's demise, Issei stood alone as night enveloped the sky of Kuro. He looked up at the stars and snorted slightly. Well, better head off. Issei was about to find somewhere to sleep when a voice interrupted him. Well. It seems like you had a fun time, singular point. Issei froze and turned to see a slim man with beige-colored skin and a wide, sharp-toothed smile. He had a red-cropped bob cut with dark reddish-gray tips and 2 large tufts of hair resembling deer ears. His eyes were striking, with dark red sclerae and bright red irises. A dark red monocle rimmed in black rested over his right eye. Issei stared at the man, his yellow eyes locking onto his. He could only manage 3 words. "Who are you?" The man chuckled, his voice sounding almost like a radio. "Ah, singular point. It's been so long since we've seen each other. What is this?" "The 10,000 attempts. There have been so many tries that even I can't keep up. I might as well tell you my name again. My name is Alaster, the radio demon, but I also have another name." Issei was confused. What did Alaster mean by 10,000 attempts? Did this man know him? "And that is?" Issei asked, intrigued. Alaster's smile widened as he snapped his claw-like fingers, enveloped in red energy as his appearance changed. "I'm also known as Issei Hyoudou." Issei stared in shock, unable to comprehend. "How are you, me?" Alaster chuckled, clearly amused by Issei's reaction. "Even after seeing that reaction so many times, it still gets me. Now then, I know you have some questions about this. You think? How are you, me? You better tell me right now." Alaster remained unfazed by Issei's outburst, noticing a blue glow starting to appear from Issei's mouth. "Calm down, singular point. The reason I'm you is that I am you, but from a different universe." "A different universe?" Issei was left speechless. He should be surprised, but for some reason he wasn't. "If you're wondering why you're not shocked, it's because we have met before. But I can't say much." Issei raised an eyebrow. He had met Alaster before. How could he not remember? "I see. Well then, why are you here?" "To help with the ritual, of course, but I know that it will come in time." Issei narrowed his yellow eyes, contemplating Alaster's words. "Issei, you know of the ritual and what it will do." Alaster let out a small laugh as he grinned. "Alaster, of course, Sarah ofim de terra." Issei couldn't help but chuckle at the words from the demon. It seemed this demon really did know about the ritual. "Issei, you know, I'm starting to like you, Alaster. I feel like you and I are going to be really good allies. Friends? Partners? Who knows?" Alaster chuckled. "Alaster, I agree, my friend, but for now, this is where we're going to go our separate ways. Because you're about to fall unconscious." "Issei, wait, wah." Suddenly, Issei's eyes felt heavy as he tried to keep himself standing. However, he then fell to his knees. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was a red glow followed by footsteps walking away from him. That was all before he was consumed by darkness. Time-skip day rose upon the town of Kuo as Issei was sleeping soundly in a bed. He was soon woken up by the sound of an alarm clock. As the alarm clock went off, Issei raised his hand and smashed it before groaning. "Issei, so noisy. It's too early for this." The black-haired boy then went back to sleep, but it didn't last long as both his eyes soon shot open. "Issei, wait a second." He sat up and looked around, finding himself in a very familiar place. This was certainly familiar to Issei. It was a place he never thought he would see again. "Issei, my old room." He then realized something as he checked his body and saw that he was naked. "Issei, why am I naked? Wait, I should be asking why I'm back in my old bedroom." So many questions were flowing through his mind that he couldn't possibly answer them all. He needed answers and he needed them now. Suddenly, Issei was brought out of his thoughts by a sound. A feminine voice murmured, He blinked in confusion and turned his head to see a crimson-haired girl sleeping beside him, completely naked. Issei stared, confused about 2 things. Why she was in his bed and why she was naked. "Issei, why is she naked? Actually, a better question is why is she in my bed?" Before long, Rius began to slowly open her eyes, stretching and letting out a yawn. "Rius, is it morning already?" She looked at Issei with a smile, and he simply stared, unsure if he should say something. But he soon snapped out of it as his yellow eyes met Rius's blue eyes. "Issei, so, would you like to tell me why you're in my bed and naked?" Rius, I found you unconscious, so I brought you here to see if you were injured. Luckily, you weren't injured. You were simply exhausted. Issei, okay, and the naked part. Rius smiled at him. Rius, I prefer to sleep naked. It feels nice to sleep without clothes. But you see something you like. Issei went silent, unsure how to respond. If he were his previous self, he would have been drooling at the sight of Rius. But since he wasn't his old self, he wasn't sure how to react. He simply looked away. Issei, I don't know how to react to that, and please tell me that we didn't, Rius. Don't worry, you're still a virgin. This caused Issei to sigh in relief. He wasn't ready for a relationship just yet, he was still a little skeptical after what he had been through. Issei stood up, not caring that he was still naked, and turned to give Rius a serious stare. His yellow eyes seemed to shine in the light as he looked at her. Issei, now then. You better start explaining yourself and what's going on here. Otherwise, you'll end up like that crow did last night. This caught Rius's attention, and she raised an eyebrow at his words, wondering what he meant by crows. But she eventually put two and two together. Rius, I see you met a fallen angel last night and survived. That is something I would like to talk to you about as well. A small growl escaped Issei's throat, surprising Rius with its animalistic tone. Issei, you better start talking. I went through hell and back to be what I am now. I had to swim from the middle of the ocean to get back to this town. Rius's eyes widened at his words. If she remembered correctly, that was where. The creature was that giant sea monster. Rius, you're that monster. Issei, what are you talking about? Rius grabbed a remote and turned on the TV in Issei's room. He looked and saw the news, which showed a picture of him in his aquatic form. Issei couldn't help but snort in annoyance at the fact that his picture was out in the world. Issei sighed, deep in thought as he walked alongside Rius, both dressed in their school uniforms. The silence between them was palpable until Rius broke it. Issei, I would like to apologize for what I did to your parents, she said, looking at him earnestly. Issei blinked in confusion. What did she mean? Just then, a memory flashed in his mind. Flashback: Issei and Rius were in the dining room, having breakfast with his parents. His father, an average man in his mid-30s, had brown hair and eyes, while his mother, slightly older, shared the same features. Issei, we're so glad you finally came out of that room of yours. I hope it isn't anything inappropriate, his mother said, concern etched on her face. Issei frowned at her words. He hadn't even been home for a week, so what was she talking about? His father attempted to calm her down. Honey, leave the boy be. He's a growing boy, he said. But he hasn't been to school for a week. Do you want our son to be a failure? Mickey replied, her worry evident. Issei couldn't help but feel exasperated. How could missing a few days of school make him a failure? More importantly, why weren't they asking about his new hair or eye color? Or why Rius was in the house? He noticed something odd about his parents' eyes. They looked different, almost hypnotized. Turning to Rius, he saw her eyes glowing red, and it all clicked into place. So, she can manipulate my parents. Is it hypnotism or memory alteration? Either way, she's keeping them from asking any awkward questions. Flashback: and Issei looked at Rius and waved her off. Calm down, Crimson Princess. You didn't do anything wrong. Rius blushed slightly at the nickname but was surprised by his calm demeanor. She had expected anger, but there was none. Why you're not angry? But I messed with your parents. She asked, bewildered. Why would I be angry at you? You saved me from having to explain myself to them. I'd rather keep them in the dark, he replied. Rius was taken aback. All he cared about was preventing his parents from prying into his life. She had heard stories of him being a pervert, but now he seemed different, more serious. I need to be cautious. If that glow from his mouth was an attack, I should avoid getting on his bad side, she thought. As they continued walking, Issei pondered, Rius isn't human. I guess I'll find out what she is when we get to Kuo. But she better not stop the ritual, otherwise things are going to get messy. Issei grumbled to himself as they arrived at Kuo Academy. I hate that people are looking at me. Rius clung to his arm, and students began to whisper. Please tell me I'm seeing things, one female student said. You're not seeing things, another replied. Rius is walking with Hyoudou. Rius smiled and waved at the onlookers, while Issei merely snorted, annoyed by the attention. He hated that some still viewed him as the same old pervert. Once inside the school building, Rius released his arm, much to his relief. I'll send someone to get you after school. See you later, she said cheerfully as she walked away. Issei let out a frustrated sigh. Talking to her had been exhausting, and he had ignored most of her questions. Why would he share anything with her? He doesn't even know what she is. But he does know that Rius isn't human, and he can sense that there are others who aren't human as well. With all the students and teachers at Kuo Academy, it's nearly impossible to know who is human and who is not. Issei thought to himself, this is going to be one annoying day. I can already tell. This better be worth it. He made his way toward his class but stopped briefly at his locker, which all students were assigned. As he opened it, he blinked in confusion at the sight of a letter inside, adorned with a heart. This could only mean one thing. It was a love letter. Curious, Issei picked it up and opened it, reading silently to avoid drawing attention. Dear Hyoudou, I know we don't see eye to eye most of the time, especially back when you were a pervert. But I just want to say that I love you. You may not feel the same, but that's all right. I don't blame you. From someone you know. Issei raised an eyebrow, wondering who could have written this letter. It made no sense to him. He wasn't liked by any girls when he was a pervert, so why would he receive a love letter? It was clear that it had been placed in his locker today. The question remained, who had left it for him? He sighed and tucked the letter into his pocket, deciding he would ask someone about it later. I'll worry about that later, for now I have class, he muttered as he headed to his classroom. Later, Issei groaned in annoyance, resting his head on his desk. His former perverted friend was demanding answers about why Issei and Rius were seen together. This annoyed him further, especially after the events of the previous day. He had heard a rumor about the tree his beam attack had destroyed. Apparently, people thought someone had driven their car into it. Tell us, Issei. No. Matsuda urged. Issei sighed. I told you two already, there is nothing going on between me and Rius Gremory. Why would I, lies? Don't play dumb with us. We're the pervert trio, remember? Motohama chimed in. Issei deadpanned at them. No, we're not. I gave that up because I no longer care about any of that. Or even being in love. Aika appeared next to him, startling Matsuda and Motohama, but Issei remained unfazed. Ah, come on Hyoudou. I'm sure there is someone out there who loves you, Aika said. Issei looked at her. Sorry, Aika. But there's no reason for me to be in love. Well, maybe you'll get a love letter from someone. Oh, already did. This caught the attention of Matsuda and Motohama, who stared at him in shock. What? You got a love letter? They exclaimed. This drew the attention of other students, who began to whisper among themselves. Did you hear that? Hyoudou got a love letter. One female student said. Who in their right mind would do that? Another wondered. I can't believe this. Hyoudou got a love letter. A male student exclaimed. Issei let out another sigh, glaring at Matsuda and Motohama. Did you two have to scream it out? What's next? Are you going to sing a pop song? Aika giggled at Issei's words, and he couldn't help but chuckle in response. Cute. Silence filled the room as everyone processed what he had just said. Aika's face turned bright red, and steam seemed to rise from her head. Did you say cute? She stammered. Yeah. The other students couldn't believe what they had just heard. Did Hyoudou just call Aika cute? One girl gasped. OMG! I can't believe it. I never thought this day would come. Another exclaimed. Please tell me someone recorded that. Male student said. Issei groaned in annoyance and shook his head. He had simply said that Aika looked cute. What was the big deal? Sometimes I don't understand people, he thought. Suddenly, the girls began to scream happily, which annoyed Issei because they were so loud. He was about to tell them off when he turned to see what they were screaming about. At the classroom door stood a handsome young man with short blonde hair, blue eyes, and a mole beneath his left eye. He wore the Kuo Academy boys' uniform, A black blazer with white accents over a white dress shirt, matching black breathes, and brown dress shoes. Issei sighed, knowing who this was, Hyoudou Kiba, the prince of Crow Academy. The girls were madly in love with him. As the female students gushed over Kiba, the blonde-haired boy made his way over to Issei. The black-haired boy simply stared at Kiba. Issei thought, so he must be the one that Rius said she'd send to get me. Kiba smiled at Issei. Hello, you must be Issei Hyoudou. Yeah, that's me, Issei replied. I must say, I have heard a lot about you. The black-haired boy tilted his head. I doubt that people have talked much about me. Everyone in the classroom looked at Issei and chimed in, yes we have. But why are you here? Issei asked. Kiba simply smiled. Issei wondered why he smiled like that, reminiscent of someone he had seen the day before. I came here by order of Rius. She wants you to follow me. Issei thought, why do I get the feeling that follow me part is going to end up as a song for something? He let out a small sigh as he stood up. Fine, let's get this over with. Issei started to follow Kiba, knowing he wouldn't get any answers unless he cooperated. They walked for a while until they reached the old school building. Issei had heard much about it before what happened to him. It had been used when Crow Academy was an all-girls school, but since it became co-ed, it was abandoned for the new building. So, this must be her base of operation, Issei thought. Both Issei and Kiba made their way inside the two-story building. As they went upstairs, Issei noticed the corridor was surprisingly clean for an old and abandoned building. Soon, they arrived at a classroom with a sign that read, Occult Research Club. So, this is it? Issei asked. Kiba nodded. Yes, Bucho is inside. Well, let's get in there, Issei said. Kiba opened the door, and they entered the room together. Instead of an old and dusty classroom, they found a well-furnished space with couches, candles, a desk, and other items. Issei was surprised, even though he had seen the hallway. In the corner, he noticed a gigantic, intricate circle drawn in chalk. Why am I even surprised? I saw the hallway, he thought. His gaze wandered, and he spotted a petite girl with white hair and gold eyes. She had two long bangs framing her face and a short bob cut in the back. Issei recognized her as Kaneko Tuju, known as the Crow Academy mascot. She had a cult following among some males and was popular among females for her cuteness. So she's a part of this group, interesting. Issei mused. Kaneko, this is Issei Hyoudou, Kiba introduced. Kaneko looked at Issei for a moment, her hazel eyes meeting his yellow ones. She then lowered her head and returned to her snack. Issei wasn't surprised. He had heard she wasn't much of a talker and preferred to keep to herself. Suddenly, Issei heard the sound of water flowing from a nearby room. He turned to see the outline of a woman behind some shower curtains. If he were his old self, he might have reacted differently, but after everything he had been through, he felt indifferent. Kaneko glanced at Issei, thinking he was just another pervert, but was surprised when he rolled his eyes and looked away. I guess he isn't a pervert, but he gives off a very strange aura. It's like I'm staring at an apex predator, she thought. Kaneko had enhanced senses similar to animals and could tell that Issei was something else entirely. Issei stood there with a bored expression. Era. Afufu, hello there, cutie, a voice called out. Issei turned to see a appealing young woman with a voluptuous figure, very long black hair, and violet eyes approaching him with a kind grin. She introduced herself as Akino Himejima, and Issei felt a strange sensation from her. Nice to meet you, he replied. Just then, Rius emerged from the restroom wearing her school outfit. Sorry, I forgot to have a shower at your place. Please forgive me, Issei. It's fine, Issei said. Now then, please take a seat, Rius instructed. Issei sat down next to Kaneko as he looked at Rius, who stood in front of her table. I welcome you to the Occult Research Club, Rius said. Thanks, even though I was forced to be here. Issei replied. No, that isn't nice to say to the one who saved your life from a fallen angel, Rius pointed out. Issei fell silent, and his sudden laugh caught the Occult Research Club off guard, sounding almost unsettling. Rius, may I ask what's so funny? Issei, You saved me from a what now? Rius, a fallen angel. Issei, ah yes. A fallen angel. You see, I wasn't in trouble from that thing. Kiba, what are you talking about? Issei let out a small chuckle. Issei, I took care of that creature with no problem whatsoever. Rius narrowed her eyes at the black-haired boy. Rius, that can't be possible. No human can take on a fallen angel. Issei, oh Rius. You're right, no human can take one of those down. But neither you nor the others in this room are human. This shocked the occult research group. Could Issei sense their power? Issei, I'm not human either. Rius, then what are you? The black-haired boy grew a sinister grin as his eyes glowed. Issei, I'm a singular point. Issei stared at Rius, Akino, Kiba, and Kaneko after revealing that he wasn't human but was a singular point. The crimson-haired girl narrowed her eyes at him, wondering what he meant, but then her eyes widened slightly as she could have sworn she saw some red dust come off Issei's clothes. Rius thought, that red dust. It's similar to the one I found at the park. Did Issei have some sort of connection to it? Is that why he disappeared for a whole week? If I remember correctly, the red dust was some sort of trans-dimensional anomaly that extended to other dimensions. What is a singular point? Sona never mentioned anything about that. Maybe it has something to do with an archetype. Rius, a singular point. What is that? Issei let out a small chuckle. Issei, I'm afraid that I cannot tell you what a singular point is, but at least you now know that I'm not human. Rius, I guess you're right. After a short time, everything calmed down as Kiba sat on the second couch and Issei sat next to Kaneko. Issei was on one end of the couch, while Kaneko was on the other side. Akino then walked over to Issei, holding a cup in her hands. Akino, here's your tea. Issei, thanks. The black-haired boy took it and took a sip. Issei, it's good. Akino, Tara, I appreciate your compliment, Fufu. Issei's sweat dropped, thinking, what is wrong with this woman? Rius then cleared her throat, which got Issei's attention. Rius, I'm going to cut to the chase. We are devils. Issei thought, wow, very direct. Rius, by your face, you don't seem surprised. In fact, I feel like you don't believe me. Say, oh, I do. But I'm not surprised. Why would I be? I was attacked by a fallen angel, did I say that right? The crimson-haired girl nodded. Issei, thank you. Anyway, why would I be surprised by some devils if I've already seen a supernatural being? Issei was right. Why would he be surprised if he had already seen a fallen angel twice and some sort of strange demon? He thought that Alaster guy was a demon since he gave off a demonic aura. Rius, you have a point there, but I'm sure you would also like to know more. The black-haired boy nodded as Rius cleared her throat. Rius, very well then, you see there is something called the three factions which are made up of three groups. The first is angels, the second is fallen angels, and the third and final, Issei, are devils. Rius nodded. Rius, the three factions started thousands of years before the beginning of the story after the biblical God cast out angels that opposed his teachings, creating the fallen angels who inhabited the underworld alongside the devils. Unlike other supernatural groups, these three factions were interconnected. Together, the three factions spawned the Judeo-Christian religion and became part of the Bible. Issei thought, so God cast out the angels who didn't obey him. Wow, that doesn't sound very fair. He had heard stories when he was little that Lucifer had been called both a demon and a fallen angel because he was a son of God. The black-haired boy wondered if Lucifer created both the devils and the fallen angels factions himself. Rius. However, there was a war between the three factions. This war went on for an unknown period of time, but eventually, it was put to a stop, and the three factions went their separate ways. Issei, I see. I'm guessing there were a lot of deaths. Rius sighed and nodded. Issei guessed the most deaths were on the devil's side because both angels and fallen angels were essentially their weaknesses. It was like a predator and prey situation among the three factions. The black-haired boy almost felt bad for the devils, nearly being wiped out completely because their two enemies were their weaknesses. Suddenly, Issei was brought out of his thoughts when Rius spoke a name. Rius, Yuma Amano. The crimson-haired girl watched as Issei began to show some anger, letting out a small growl that revealed his teeth, which seemed to have changed into canines like an animal. It was clear to them that he did not like hearing Yuma's name again. Issei sighed. Ah yes, the one who pierced me and left me to die. How could I forget? I can still feel the pain from the scar. Kiba raised an eyebrow. The scar. As Issei began to lift his shirt, Rius blushed, while Akino watched with interest. Kaneko remained unfazed, but soon everyone else wore shocked expressions as they saw what Issei was referring to. On Issei's chest was a nasty scar, a reminder of the encounter with the fallen angel Yuma. Rius was taken aback. How had she missed it? She had been in his bed, and the scar was not small. Had it been too dark in the room, or was she too focused on something else to notice? Rius thought, how did I miss that? Clearing her throat, she asked, I see, that is a pretty nasty scar. Tell me, does it hurt? Only when I expect it. Issei replied. And that is? All the time. Silence filled the room as the Occult Research Club stared at him in shock. They had just learned that Issei constantly felt pain from his scar. How could he endure it? Perhaps it was related to him being a singular point. Issei sighed and lowered his shirt. Why did she kill me? He pondered aloud. He knew there had to be a reason behind Yuma's actions. Rius answered. The reason she approached you was that she sensed something within you. She spent time with you because you possessed a sacred gear. Sacred gear. Issei recalled Yuma mentioning it before she attacked him. What is a sacred gear? Kiba explained. A sacred gear is a powerful item bestowed upon humans by the God of the Bible. Many people who have made their mark in history possess one. Each sacred gear is unique and powerful. Akino added, even today, there are people with sacred gears, including some of the most important figures in the world. Rius continued, however, supernatural beings like angels, devils, and fallen angels cannot possess a sacred gear. Only humans can. Issei nodded, but then a thought struck him. Wait, if the person with the sacred gear dies, do they keep it? Rius shook her head. No, when the host dies, the sacred gear is transferred to a random person. So, he no longer had a sacred gear. But he was already powerful without one. Then I guess I don't have one, he concluded. Rius's expression turned serious as she looked into his yellow eyes. What happened to you? When I arrived at the park to save you, your body was gone, and all that was left was a pile of red dust. Red dust, you say? Issei asked, narrowing his eyes. Yes, the same that I just saw fall off you. Issei was silent, contemplating Rius's words. She had seen the red dust, but he doubted she understood its significance. He couldn't reveal its true purpose just yet. What does the red dust do? Why was it on Rodden's body? Rius inquired. Rodden? Was that what they were calling the creature he sent? Interesting. Issei chuckled softly. You don't know, do you? This sudden change in his demeanor confused the Occult Research Club. They watched as Issei held out his hand, revealing some red dust. Rius narrowed her eyes, realizing the connection. Imagine it's just a ritual, Issei said cryptically. He stood up and walked toward the door. Kiba was about to stop him, but Issei glanced back with a grin, revealing his sharp canines. Run from me, he teased. With that, Issei opened the door and left the Occult Research Club room, leaving Rius and the others in shock and confusion. Kiba quickly turned to Rius. Shall I go retrieve him? Rius shook her head. No, leave him be. We have more important things to deal with. But just to be safe, she added, looking at Kaneko, I want you to follow him. Kaneko nodded. As Issei walked down the street of Kuo Academy, chuckling to himself, school had just ended, and he was heading home. Despite his reluctance to face his parents, Issei knew he had no choice. He found them annoying and felt they had no role in the ritual. I really don't want to go back home. It's a waste of my time, he muttered to himself. As he walked, he wondered about Alaster. The last he heard, Alaster mentioned he would see Issei soon, but he hadn't seen any sign of him yet. Maybe it was just too soon. Either way, Issei had questions for him, especially about why Alaster resembled him. There were so many questions swirling in his mind, but he knew he had to be patient until he could find the answers he sought. He had plenty of time before the ritual. Suddenly, Issei stopped as he sensed something nearby. The sky turned purple and he sighed, "Great. Here we go again." "So you are him," a voice called out. Issei turned to see a tall woman with brown eyes and long, navy blue hair obscuring one eye. She wore a maroon trenchcoat-like top, a matching miniskirt, and black-heeled shoes. Issei sensed her power, which felt similar to the opponent he had defeated the previous day. Had that guy really been defeated? Yes, he remembered reducing him to ashes. "And you are?" Issei asked. "Forgive me, since this is your only time hearing this. My name is Calawarner, and I'm here to kill you," she replied. Issei rolled his eyes. "Not like I haven't heard that before." He was cut off as a light spear pierced his stomach, causing him to cough up. Calawarner smirked. "You were saying, you may have defeated Donasek, but I am much stronger than he was." Issei coughed again as Calawarner summoned another light spear. "This is you," she began, but was interrupted when a large tendril made of BLD wrapped around her body. She exclaimed, looking at Issei and realizing the tendril came from his wound. Issei laughed, sending a chill down her spine as he looked at her with glowing yellow eyes. "Did you really think it would be that easy?" Calawarner struggled against the tendril, which then threw her to the ground. She grunted in pain, watching as Issei's wound healed rapidly. He cracked his neck and faced her. "Since you took a shot at me, I think it's time I did as well." Calawarner felt an unfamiliar fear of Issei. Normally, she wouldn't be afraid of a human or a devil, but he was something more dangerous. "No. Stay, she started, but Issei unleashed a powerful roar that sent her flying a few feet away and tore up the ground around him. Calawarner lay on the ground, covered in bruises and BLD, shaken by the attack. Issei chuckled as he approached her. She wanted to flee, but her body wouldn't move. It was terrified of him. He loomed over her, a sinister grin on his face. "Any last words?" Calawarner gulped, fear evident in her eyes. What are you?" A sinister grin spread across Issei's face, revealing sharp canines. "What am I?" "Oh, that's simple." A blue glow began to form in his mouth, and Calawarner's eyes widened in realization of the impending danger. "I'm the Faradoo Apocalypse." The fallen angel was paralyzed with fear as Issei opened his mouth wide. "Stop," a voice commanded. Issei halted, the blue glow fading as he closed his mouth. Who dared to tell him to stop? He scanned the area, a low growl escaping his throat, while keeping Calawarner pinned down with his foot. "Who the hell said that? Who told me to stop?" Issei exclaimed, frustration evident in his voice. "I did," came a calm reply. Issei quickly turned to see a woman with long light blue hair and light red eyes, her presence imposing with a pair of gigantic horns. There was something unsettling about her. He sensed that she could either be an ally or an enemy. The powerful aura she radiated suggested she was not to be trifled with, which could complicate his plans for the ritual. But how dare she interfere with his intent to confront the fallen angel? "Who are you? Why did you stop me?" Issei demanded, his anger boiling over. The woman studied him, sensing the strange and dangerous power emanating from him. "I should be asking you that. You have a dangerous aura." "Yeah. So what if I do? How dare you get in my way?" Issei shot back, his yellow eyes blazing with fury. Tiiamat, as she introduced herself, continued to gaze at him, intrigued yet cautious. "Tiiamat, my name is Tiiamat." "Well then, Tiiamat, can you tell me why you stopped me from killing my prey?" Issei gestured toward Calawarner, who was struggling to escape his grasp but was clearly at a disadvantage. "I stopped you because I do not want any more death in the world I created." Tiiamat replied. "You created? You're telling me that you created the earth?" Issei asked, a chuckle escaping his lips. Meeting the one who created the world he was born into felt surreal. If Tiiamat was indeed the mother of everything on earth, it made him wonder about his own transformation and growth. "Yes," she confirmed. "Interesting. I guess it's wonderful to meet you, Issei said, amusement dancing in his tone. Who are you? Tiamat asked, her curiosity piqued. Issei found it amusing that Tiamat, the mother of all, had no idea who he was. You don't know. Well, my dear mother, I will tell you who I am. Tiamat narrowed her eyes, sensing the mockery in his tone. Suddenly, she noticed a blue glow beginning to form in Issei's mouth. He was about to unleash an attack. I'm the Hyoudou apocalypse, he declared. No. Tiamat shouted, but it was too late. Issei released a blue beam toward Calawarner, whose screams of pain filled the air as Tiamat watched in horror. In a fit of rage, she rushed forward and punched Issei, causing him to stumble back. Arg. Issei grunted, recovering quickly. Tiamat knelt beside the injured Calawarner, desperately trying to heal her, but it seemed Issei's power was preventing her from doing so. Come on, she urged, but her efforts were in vain. Please heal, she pleaded, but the result was the same. Why won't it work? She murmured, tears welling in her eyes as she held Calawarner's hand. The fallen angel coughed, struggling for breath, but Tiamat could do nothing to save her. I'm so sorry, there's nothing I can do. Tiamat whispered, her heart breaking as Calawarner smiled weakly and closed her eyes for the last time, releasing Tiamat's hand. The light blue-haired woman remained still for a moment, grief washing over her before her gaze hardened and turned to Issei. He adjusted his jaw, acknowledging that Tiamat was indeed powerful. If not for his durability, he might have been seriously injured. You. Tiamat seethed, her eyes filled with fury. How dare I what? Take the life of some pathetic creature. Issei retorted, his tone dismissive. Tiamat fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. He had taken a life, and to him, it was nothing. Her expression darkened as she stared at the ground, her hair casting shadows over her face. In a sudden burst of anger, she struck Issei, sending him flying several feet before he crashed to the ground. Growling, Issei pushed himself back to his feet, glaring at Tiamat, who returned his gaze with equal intensity. Both were filled with hatred and fury, ready for the confrontation that lay ahead. Looks like I have to put you in your place, Issei said, cracking his neck in preparation. Tiamat remained silent, her resolve unbroken. Tiamat unleashed a powerful roar-like scream, pushing Issei back a few feet, igniting his anger. How dare she think she could mess with him? He was determined to show her who he was. If she was going to roar at him, he would respond with an even better one. Scream kunk. Issei's roar echoed throughout Kuo, causing cars to honk and the ground to shake. Fueled by fury, he charged at Tiamat, intent on defeating her. Tiamat, too, charged forward, determined to end the conflict, even if it meant taking drastic measures. Normally, she would never resort to such actions, but Issei had BLD on his hands. When they clashed, a massive shockwave rippled through Kuo, shaking the ground and cracking windows. Tiamat realized she couldn't unleash her full power in the city without causing devastation, so she devised a plan to take Issei somewhere they could fight properly. Issei's eyes burned with hatred as his fingers morphed into claws, and he swung at Tiamat, who deftly dodged. This only fueled his anger further, and a familiar blue glow began to form in his mouth. Tiamat quickly opened a portal behind him and shoved him through, following him into a new battleground. Issei landed in an unfamiliar place, growling as he surveyed his surroundings. He had no idea where Tiamat had brought him, but he was ready for a fight. Why did you bring me here? He demanded. To make sure you do not kill any more, Tiamat replied. Issei couldn't help but laugh. Did she really think she could stop him? It doesn't matter. I'll just kill you. As he opened his mouth, blue rings appeared, and he unleashed a beam of energy at Tiamat. She dodged the attack, and he redirected his aim, but she continued to evade him. Eventually, the beam dissipated, allowing Tiamat to counterattack. Primordial flame, she shouted, unleashing a beam of light blue-green flames. Issei dodged, but Tiamat was quicker, hitting him with another attack that sent him stumbling back. What the hell? Why did that hurt me? Issei growled, feeling a pain he had never experienced before. As Tiamat watched, Issei began to transform, He grew taller, his teeth sharpened, and claws emerged from his fingers and toes, ripping through his shoes. His shirt tore as he sprouted plate-like objects on his back and a long tail. Tiamat was shocked as he charged at her, landing a punch that sent her flying into a small lake. Stunned by the power of his strike, Tiamat realized he had reached a level nearly equal to a dragon god. Issei then unleashed another blue beam, this time targeting the waterfall behind her, cutting through the stone effortlessly and causing rocks to tumble down. Tiamat attempted to escape but was buried under the debris. Issei approached the lake's edge, growling at the water, challenging Tiamat to rise again. After a moment of silence, he snorted and began to walk away, unleashing his ability, terraforming, as red dust covered the ground and plants around him. However, he soon felt the ground shake again. Confused, he turned to see a glow emanating from the water. So, she is still alive. Doesn't matter. I'll just finish her off, he thought, staring at the brightening glow, shielding his eyes from the light. He didn't need to go blind in the middle of a battle, that would leave him at a disadvantage. Issei knew that what was coming was not going to be an easy fight. He growled as he watched something burst out of the water. It was Tiamat. But she was different this time, taller, with larger horns and a white X in both her eyes. Her glowing red eyes would terrify anyone, but Issei wasn't scared. He was enraged that his opponent wasn't dead. No one had ever survived more than a few seconds with him. Maybe it was because Tiamat was more powerful than his previous foes, or maybe it was because Issei might be. There was no way he was weak. He refused to think such a thing. He may have been weak in his old life, a fragile person who only cared about superficial things, but he was no longer that person. He was much more. He was a singular point. Screen kunk. Issei let out another roar as he charged toward the newly transformed Tiamat, disregarding what she could do in this new form. Tiamat remained where she was as Issei closed in, but as he swung a claw, she punched him in the stomach, sending him crashing into a tree. Growling, Issei glared at Tiamat, whose calm demeanor only fueled his anger. His backplates began to glow blue as he opened his mouth, forming 7 rings. He unleashed a powerful blue beam at Tiamat, but she countered with a beam of red energy that overpowered his attack, pushing him back. For the first time, Issei was left shocked. His attack had been overpowered. This couldn't be possible. No. Issei's eyes filled with hatred and rage as he glared at Tiamat. He roared in fury and charged at her, surprising her with his increased speed. He jumped and threw a punch, but Tiamat easily blocked it. Issei continued to throw punches, but none connected. He refused to give up until he landed a hit. After a minute of relentless effort, he finally succeeded, landing a powerful punch to Tiamat's face. However, his eyes widened in shock as he saw that his punch hadn't left a mark. Tiamat glared back at him. My turn. Issei took this chance to jump back, needing distance from Tiamat. But she appeared in front of him and delivered a powerful blow that caused him to cough up blood. He fell to his knees, shocked. This couldn't be happening. After everything he had endured, was this how it all ended? Gritting his teeth, Issei stared at the ground. Tiamat watched as he opened his mouth, but there was no blue glow. Instead, a strange, cold mist emerged, covering the ground and causing Tiamat to jump back. She had never felt anything so cold before. Realizing he was up to something, she knew she had to stop him before it was too late. It's time for you to chill out. A blue glow enveloped Tiamat's right hand as she unleashed a wave of ice toward Issei. When it made contact, he was frozen in place, still on his hands and knees, unable to continue his strange breath. Tiamat closed her eyes. I am sorry, young one, but I can't let you cause any more death and destruction. She opened her light red eyes and stared at the frozen Issei. If I allowed you to continue, you would have become the incarnate of despair and hopelessness. That is something I can't let happen. Life must continue. Of course, Tiamat received no response from the frozen Issei. She didn't want to do this, but she had no other choice. It was either stop him now or watch everything she created be destroyed by a monster. You put up a good fight, but in the end, you were weak. However, unbeknownst to him, Issei could hear everything she was saying. When she called him weak, something within him snapped. How dare she call him weak? She had no idea what true power was. If she wanted a monster, then she would get one. End of chapter. Issei's eyes opened as he found himself in a vast void, an infinite black abyss of nothingness. No sight or light for miles, and he couldn't believe it. He was back in the place he hated the most. Issei, I'm back here. The black-haired boy looked at himself, noticing he was in his regular form and his clothes were intact. It seemed that whenever he came to this place, it restored him to his normal state. This was strange and frustrating. What if he returned to the fight in this form? The fight? Issei remembered being frozen by Tiamat's ice powers and her taunts about his weakness. A low growl escaped his throat, filled with hatred. Issei, I'm gonna make her eat those words. Suddenly, a voice interrupted his thoughts. And how do you expect to do that? Surprised, Issei turned to see who it was. His eyes widened in shock at the sight before him. Issei, how is this possible? A chuckle came from the figure. Because it is singular point, or shall I call you by our real name? Issei Hyoudou. He couldn't believe his eyes. The voice belonged to himself. But this version looked like his old self, back when he was a different person. Issei, how is this possible? How are you me when I am me? The other Issei chuckled. Other Issei, it's because I am you, your other half. The part you've been missing since the day we were stabbed by Yuma's light spear. Issei, my other half. The other Issei nodded, examining the differences between them. Other Issei, wow, you certainly look way better than me. I wonder if you have a HRM yet. Issei raised an eyebrow at his other self's comment. Did he really used to think like that? No wonder he struggled with relationships back then. But he had moved on. He didn't care about that anymore. Issei, so why are you here? How did you get into my mind? The other Issei snapped out of his thoughts and looked at him. Other Issei, mind. What are you talking about? Issei, this is my hell. I've suffered endless pain and torture for so long. All my cries for it to stop were just echoes in this abyss. The other Issei laughed, which angered Issei. Issei, you dare laugh at my suffering. But Issei, oh no, I'm not laughing at your suffering. I'm laughing at the fact that you think this place is a personal hell for you. It isn't. Issei frowned, confused. How could this not be hell? All the pain, all the suffering he'd endured. Issei, how is this not hell? Do you not understand the pain I went through? Other Issei raised his hands in defense. Other Issei, hey, calm down. I understand what you went through, and I'm sorry. But what I'm trying to say is this isn't hell. This is actually your mindscape. Issei paused, intrigued. Issei, mindscape? What do you mean? Other Issei, a mindscape is a place within your mind where we can talk to each other. Issei, so, you're saying this place is really within my mind? Other Issei nodded. Other Issei, yes, and all the pain you went through was only in your mind while your body changed. Issei looked at his hands, shaking slightly as he processed this revelation. All the suffering had been a construct of his mind. Issei, all I went through was just within my mind. Other Issei nodded. Other Issei, yes, I'm not sure why you had to endure it here, but I'm sure you would have felt really tired. Issei felt a mix of fury and relief. He had never been in a true hell. It was all in his mind. He took a deep breath, calming himself. Issei, so why are you here? There's no way you are just here to tell me that. The other Issei smiled at him. Issei, you're right, I'm here to help you with your dragon problem. Issei was currently frozen solid thanks to Tiamat's power. He had her on the run and thought he had defeated her, but it turned out that wasn't the case. Apparently, she had a more powerful form, and she easily took him down. Issei, I don't get it. I had to go through so much to become powerful. I am supposed to be something that everything fears. But why am I so weak? Other Issei, it's because you are incomplete. This caught Issei's attention. Issei, I'm incomplete. What do you mean? The other Issei crossed his arms and chuckled. Other Issei, It's because you and I have not merged to become one yet. Issei was surprised. Issei, you and I have to merge. The brown-haired boy nodded. Issei, then let's do it. Let us merge and become one. Other Issei, no. This shocked Issei. Why would he refuse? Issei, what? Why refuse? The other Issei closed his eyes and snapped his fingers, causing a love letter that Issei found in his locket to appear. Issei, that letter. Other Issei, yeah, this is why I won't merge with you. This confused Issei even more. Issei, why? Other Issei, when you got this letter, you brushed it off like it was nothing. Do you have any idea how the girl who wrote this letter feels now? Issei, no, because why would I care? The other Issei sighed in annoyance. Other Issei, I may have been a pervert, but at least I understood the feelings of a girl. In a way. Issei pieced it together and realized what his other self was talking about. This shocked and angered him. Issei, are you saying that I should accept the feelings of the girl who wrote that letter? Out of the question. I am a singular point. I don't have time for that. Other Issei sighed. Other Issei, then you will never become what you are meant to be. Those words pierced Issei like daggers. They echoed in his mind as he went silent. Accept the feelings of the one who made the love letter. He didn't even know who wrote it. How was he supposed to accept the girl's feelings if he didn't even know who she was? Issei, even if I did agree, I don't know who the girl is. So how am I supposed to accept her feelings? The other Issei chuckled and showed him the letter. Dear Hyoudou, I know we don't see eye to eye most of the time, especially back when you were a pervert, but I just want to say that I love you. You may not feel the same, but that's all right. I don't blame you. From someone you know. Other Issei, see anything? Issei, no, I don't. The other Issei smirked and snapped his fingers, making the tiny writing clearer. Issei was shocked to see it read, Love from Aika. Issei, Aika. Aika, his classmate, known for her boldness. Did she have feelings for him before he changed? Or had she just recently developed feelings for him? The other Issei nodded. Other Issei, yes, she cares about you but is too scared to tell you. She thinks you won't accept her feelings because she believes you hate her. Issei, I don't hate her. Other Issei, if you don't hate her, then will you accept her feelings? Silence was the only answer as Issei looked down, unsure how to respond. Should he accept Aika's feelings? He had no time for love. He had to complete the ritual. But if he didn't, he wouldn't be whole, and Tiamat could kill him. Issei was torn. Suddenly he realized something. He had time to complete the ritual. He didn't have to rush. Plus, what was the worst that could happen by accepting Aika's feelings? Issei looked up at the other Issei, determination on his face. Issei, I accept her feelings. The other Issei smiled. Other Issei, about time. Issei couldn't help but smile back. To say, thanks. For everything. Other Issei, no worries, now let's beat this dragon. The other Issei began to turn transparent as he walked toward Issei, merging with him. A small smirk grew on Issei's face. We are one. From within the ice, Issei's eye shot open, his pupil becoming slit. A blue glow began to appear from within the ice, catching Tiamat's attention. What the? She exclaimed, watching as cracks began to form in the ice. It's not possible. Suddenly, the ice shattered, and Issei rose, letting out a powerful roar that nearly knocked Tiamat off her feet. Scream kunk. Tiamat thought, what is this? Just a few minutes ago, he was defeated, and now he's back. Did his power increase? She noticed changes in his appearance. His tail grew longer, the spikes on his back looked different, and his hair was now white as snow. When Issei stopped roaring, Tiamat saw the rage in his eyes, like a raging inferno. Remaining on guard, Tiamat prepared herself. Issei stared at her, a toothy grin forming on his face. It's time to end this with one single attack. Tiamat narrowed her eyes, thinking, a single attack. Is he crazy? She began to create an attack within her mouth, while Issei's back spikes glowed crimson red. Tiamat took too long to unleash her attack, and Issei released his beam attack, striking Tiamat in the chest and sending her flying back. "Ay!" she cried, crashing into the ground as Issei continued his assault. Tiamat roared in pain, but Issei soon stopped, causing the glow to fade. Tiamat groaned as she looked at him. "Why did you stop? You're defeated, there's no reason to kill you," Issei replied. Tiamat struggled to get up, determined to prevent any more deaths. "No, I won't let you kill any more innocent lives. There will be no more bloodshed." Issei chuckled. "Then you better be ready to face me in my ultimate form." Tiamat's eyes widened in fear as she stared at him. Issei smirked and began to walk away, determined to find a way back home. He had someone important to see, and nothing would stop him from reaching that person. Issei walked with Aika next to him, the brown-haired girl holding his arm. The sky was a brilliant blue. He glared at a white-haired priest with an insane grin, armed with a gun and sword. In front of Rius, Issei stood protectively, Aika behind him. He growled, his eyes filled with fury and hatred. Aika sat on Issei's bed, humming a lullaby. Issei stood at his window, staring at the rising sun, his pupils normal before becoming slit again. From the skies, a band of Rodens flew, leaving a red cloud in their wake. After defeating Tiamat and escaping the dimension, Issei made his way to Aika's house. He stood at the front gate, staring at the impressive structure. "Wow, so this is Aika's house. Gotta say, she has a pretty nice place." He entered and approached the front door, knocking. A sigh escaped him. He still couldn't believe he was doing this. He had promised his other half he would. If he didn't, he wouldn't be complete, and he wouldn't have been able to defeat Tiamat. Yet he felt conflicted about pursuing another relationship after his last one had ended so tragically. But for now, he pushed those thoughts aside, focusing on the moment ahead. Issei waited for a response, but eventually he was met with silence. Issei, I guess no one's home. I should Leah. Before he could finish, the front door opened, and he was greeted by Aika. Aika, her eyes widened, and she blushed slightly at the sight of Issei. Aika, Issei. What are you doing here? Issei scratched the back of his head. Issei, I came to see you. I wondered if you wanted to hang out with me. Aika's face turned red at his invitation. She hadn't expected this from him. Aika, really? He nodded. Issei, though if you don't want to Aika, no. No, I would like to hang out with you. Issei was surprised by her enthusiastic response but couldn't help but smile. Maybe he was glad she accepted his offer. Aika, do you want to come in? Issei, oh sure. She moved aside as he walked into her house, and Aika closed the door behind them. Issei, whoa, you sure have some nice paintings. Aika giggled. Aika, thanks. My mom loves to paint. Oh, speaking of my mom, we should introduce you to her. Issei, oh okay. They made their way to the kitchen, where Aika's mother was washing dishes. Aika, hey mom, a friend is over for a visit. Really? Issei took a moment to observe Aika's mother. She was a slender woman with long wavy brown hair, wearing a one-piece gown and a blue corset. Oh my, it's true. My little girl has someone over. Aika blushed at her mother's words. Aika, don't embarrass me. Aika's mother giggled, and Issei couldn't help but chuckle. Mamako, I guess I should introduce myself. I am Aika's mother, Mamako. Issei, I'm Issei Hyoudou. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mississippi. Mamako smiled and looked at Aika. Mamako, Aika, your friend is such a gentleman. Maybe he'll be the one you marry and give me grandbabies. Aika's face turned bright red, and Issei felt a nervous sweat. Even his own mother had been asking him about getting a girlfriend. Mamako then looked at Issei and smiled. Mamako, so, Issei, would you like anything to eat or drink? Issei, not at the moment, but thank you for asking. Mamako, all right then, you two go and have some fun. Aika, Mom. Mamako giggled as Aika led Issei out of the kitchen. They soon arrived at a staircase and began to walk up. Issei, your mom seems nice. Aika sighed. Aika, yeah, though she can be annoying sometimes. Issei smiled. Issei, that just proves she cares about you. She must want the best for you. Aika. Because. Before long, they arrived at Aika's room. Issei stepped inside and was left in awe. Issei, why is yours so much better? Aika giggled and shrugged. Aika, not sure. But what do you think? Issei, I think I'm jealous. Aika laughed at his words, and Issei smiled slightly, finding her giggle very cute. Aika, why don't you have a seat on the bed? Issei, okay. He sat on the bed and Aika joined him. Aika, so, what do you want to do? Issei thought about what they could do. He had originally come to talk to Aika about the love letter she gave him, but he didn't want to sound like a JRK. Issei, I'm not sure. What do you have in mind? Aika, well, we could play video games, watch some TV, or maybe even sing. Wait, do you even sing? Issei shrugged. Issei, don't know, never tried. Never really saw a point in singing. Aika, well, why don't you give it a try? Maybe you'll be good at it. Issei considered it. He wasn't a singer, but he was sure Aika wouldn't judge him. Issei, all right then, I'll give it a shot. He stood up and cleared his throat as Aika brought out her phone and played some music. As the music played, Issei felt a mix of excitement and nerves, ready to dive into this new experience with Aika. But that quiet was soon broken when multiple rodents launched out of the water and began to fly into the air. These looked like the same rodents that Rius and her peerage faced when they went to hunt that stray devil, but this time there were hundreds, if not thousands, of them. Each rodent roared loudly as they flew in random directions, leaving a red cloud in their wake. Aika stared at the black-haired boy with an expression of complete awe. She never thought Issei was capable of singing like this. She had known him for a long time, basically since Kuo Academy allowed boys to attend, and she knew a lot about him. But this was something entirely new. As Aika continued to watch Issei sing, she noticed him close his eyes for a moment before opening them again. When he did, her eyes widened as she saw his pupils change to slits. In an unknown location, what seemed like an abandoned facility housed a figure resembling a teenage boy but with glowing red eyes that looked robotic. The figure seemed to be working on something but soon stopped, sensing something powerful. Detecting energy surge, location. Singular point, the figure announced. In another unknown location, a dark forest devoid of light or life concealed a mysterious being. This being appeared to be a teenage boy with black eyes and red irises, razor-sharp teeth, and dark markings on his face. He chuckled as he liked some BLD off his fingers, then looked up at the sky, sensing something. Ah, singular point. Seems that he is starting the ritual again, he said with a sinister grin. Well, can't let him have all the fun. Issei paused for a moment, taking a deep breath as memories flashed through his mind. He continued singing, his voice filled with intensity. With that, Issei finished singing. He began to breathe slightly as his eyes returned to normal and looked at Aika, who was staring at him with shock and awe. She couldn't believe he could sing like that, sounding like a professional. But she was also shocked by his pupils. She thought she was seeing things, but they had actually turned into slits. Issei. Aika stammered. Yes. He replied. Did your pupils just become like those of a reptile? Issei froze, cursing himself. He didn't want Aika to know the truth about what he really was, but he knew she would find out sooner or later. He didn't care about the safety of Rius or the others, but he was determined to protect Aika. He swore that if they even thought about laying a finger on her, he would show them why he was a singular point. Wait, why did he care this much? He couldn't be actually caring for Aika this much, could he? He let out a small sigh as he sat on the bed. Okay. I guess I should tell you, but I have a question. And that is? Aika asked. I wouldn't say that, singular point, a voice interrupted. End of chapter. Issei, I wouldn't say that, singular point. The sudden voice that cut Issei off caused Aika to look around, trying to find where it came from. Aika, what was that? Issei let out a sigh of annoyance as he turned and looked at a dark corner of Aika's bedroom. The brown-haired girl looked over as well, noticing the change in Issei's pupils. Issei, I know you're there, so come out. A small chuckle echoed as a figure emerged from the shadows, causing Aika's eyes to widen. The figure had a huge grin on his face, and his eyes resembled something from an old-fashioned radio. I knew that you would sense me. Issei, why are you here, Alaster? Alaster chuckled again, still grinning. Alaster, as I said, you and I will be seeing each other again. Though I did not expect this. Issei, expect what? Alaster, hanging out with a human. Normally you get the ritual started. Aika stared at the two with confusion. What was Alaster talking about? What ritual? So many questions flooded her mind. She had no idea who this Alaster was or how he appeared in her room. Issei, well, Alaster, let's just say I'm taking things slow. Alaster, I see. He then looked at Aika, his smile growing as he saw her. Alaster, Aika. It's so good to see you again. It's been quite a while, even if you're not my Aika. This caught Aika's attention. What did he mean by that? His Aika. Aika, what are you talking about? Who even are you? Alaster chuckled. Alaster, well, as Singular Point said, my name is Alaster. But I go by another name. Aika, and that is... Alaster tilted his head, and his appearance flickered, causing Aika's eyes to widen in shock. Alaster, Issei Hyoudou. Aika was left speechless by Alaster's words. She couldn't believe what she was seeing and hearing. Aika, how are you, Issei? Alaster chuckled. Alaster, well, that is because I am from another universe. Aika's eyes widened. Another universe? That should be impossible. Alaster, I know what you're thinking. It should be impossible for there to be another universe. But trust me, it is true. There are more and more. Issei, so, the multiverse theory is true. Alaster nodded. Alaster, indeed it is correct. Aika, see, can I ask you something? Alaster looked at her. Alaster, why of course, darling. Maybe I will have the answer to your question. Aika, how did you end up like this? The smile on Alaster's face remained as he sighed slightly. Alaster, that, my dear, is a long tale, one that I'm sure you don't want to hear. If anything, Singular Point's story is way better than mine. Alaster chuckled as Issei crossed his arms. Issei, geez, you find anything amusing, don't you? Alaster, well, since she now knows I'm you, I don't see why not. But remember, Singular Point, if you tell her, she will now be part of the ritual. Issei went silent, realizing the implications. If he told her, she would know what he was up to, and he couldn't let anyone know about the ritual. Alaster chuckled at Issei's reaction and bowed slightly to Aika. Alaster, have a good day, Aika, and remember. With that, Alaster turned into a shadow and disappeared, leaving both Issei and Aika alone in the room. Silence filled the space as Aika stared at the spot where Alaster once stood, still shocked by what had just happened. Aika, Issei, this is some kind of joke. Issei shook his head, letting her stare into his now reptilian-like eyes. Issei, no, this isn't a joke. It's all real. Aika. A sigh escaped Issei as he sat down next to her. Issei, I guess I should explain. Aika, why yeah, please explain. Issei, fine then, so it started when? Issei, and so, after I defeated that so-called primordial mother, I came here and well, that's about it. Aika was left speechless by what she had just heard. The supernatural existed. How had no one else found out about this? Then again, Issei had told her they preferred to stay hidden. Aika, I can't believe it. Issei, yeah, I understand. But now you know why I was gone for a whole week. I still can't believe it myself. It felt like forever. Aika said, this is just a lot to take in, that's all. The black-haired boy smiled slightly as he placed his hands on Aika's shoulders, making the brown-haired girl look at him. I know, but take your time, okay? I don't want you to end up hurting yourself, Issei replied. Aika didn't say anything, but what she did next shocked him. She hugged Issei, and he didn't expect this. But it felt. I'm so sorry. You shouldn't have to go through that pain. Aika said. Issei hugged her back, rubbing her back gently. It's okay, I survived it all, he reassured her. But you were taken from the ones you love, Aika replied. A sigh escaped Issei's mouth as he continued to hold her. If he was going to ask her about the letter, now was the best time. Speaking of love. You remember I said I found a love letter in my locker? Issei asked. Yeah. What about it? Aika responded. Well, I know who the love letter was from, he said, letting out a small chuckle that made Aika blush slightly. Oh, who was it from? She inquired. It's you. I know the love letter was from you. Aika's face turned bright red as her eyes widened in shock. It was true that she had placed that love letter in Issei's locker, but she didn't expect him to find out so quickly. How did you know? She stammered. Let's just say that my old self figured it out, Issei replied. Aika blinked, recalling Issei telling her about meeting his old self. My old self discovered the little writing you left in the corner of the letter, he added. Aika blushed even more. So, are you going to tell me that we can't be together because of this ritual thing? She asked. A smile grew on Issei's face. Normally I would, but I have all the time before I do the ritual. So that means that Aika cut him off when she kissed him on the lips, causing his eyes to widen in surprise. A small blush covered his face. He hadn't expected this. He managed to say. Aika looked away, blushing. Sorry, I shouldn't have done that, she started. No, Issei interrupted, making her look at him. He smiled. I liked it. Really? Aika asked, left speechless. She then smiled and kissed him again. This time, Issei kissed back, wrapping his arms around her waist. They eventually separated and looked at each other. So I guess we're a thing now? Aika asked. Yeah, looks like we are. My love, Issei replied. Aika giggled. Hey you two. Food's ready. Aika's mother called from the kitchen. Well, I guess that's our signal, Aika said. Yeah, Issei agreed. They made their way out of the room, holding hands. When they arrived in the kitchen, they saw Mamako, who was holding some food. She smiled when she noticed them holding hands, finding it cute. Ah, that's cute, Mamako said. Aika blushed at her mother's words, while Issei chuckled. Well, you two sit at the table. I'll bring the food over, Mamako instructed. Okay, they replied in unison. They walked over to the table and sat down. Mamako soon placed 2 bowls of delicious food in front of them. Wow, that looks good, Issei said, amazed. He had never seen food like this before. Thanks, now eat up you too, Mamako encouraged. Okay mom, Aika replied. They began to eat the food Mamako had prepared. Meanwhile, in another realm, Surzek's Gremory entered a lab where a scientist was conducting experiments on a rotten corpse. Although Surzek was pleased to have named a new species, he was worried about something. More of these creatures. Where did they come from? Why had they just appeared now? The head scientist approached Surzek. Lord Surzek, we have some information about the rotten that you may find interesting. Please, go ahead, Surzek said. The scientist cleared his throat. Well, we discovered that despite the rodden's digestive tract being wired properly, it seems that it doesn't need sustenance. So, you're saying it killed that stray devil for fun? Surzek asked. Yes and no, the scientist replied, capturing Surzek's attention. What do you mean? Surzek inquired. While it doesn't need sustenance, what it does use food for is something else, which leads to what we discovered about its gender. Surzek wondered if there were more roddens. Would the one on the examining table be male or female? So what is it? He asked. It's genderless, the scientist revealed. This shocked Surzek. He realized that the rodden being genderless might explain its relationship with food. What does this have to do with it eating food? Surzek asked. Well, we believe that the rodden can reproduce by consuming food, despite not needing it to survive, the scientist explained. Surzek nodded in understanding, now grasping the implications of the scientist's findings. But he still wondered one thing. Why did it just die? It had no injuries from what his sister told him, so why did it suddenly perish? Surzek said, There's one final thing I want to know. Why did it just die? From what my sister told me, it flew into the air after tearing the stray devil apart and then just died. The head scientist scratched the back of his head. We're not sure, my lord. But what we can guess is that there are more out there, and they may end up attacking. This was troubling. If more Rodens attacked, who knew what would happen? Surzex needed a plan, a weapon that could deal with these Rodens. Suddenly, an idea came to the red-haired Devil King. Thank you for all your work, but I have a new assignment for you, Surzex said. Yes, my lord. What is it? The head scientist asked. I want you to build something for me, something under the code name Jet Jaguar. Aika's POV. My eyes shot open as I quickly sat up in a cold sweat, breathing heavily as I tried to calm myself down. What the hell? Hey, I had a straw. I quickly turned to my right and saw nothing. Where was Issei? More importantly, where was I? The last thing I remembered was falling asleep with my boyfriend. I gathered my thoughts and began to check my surroundings. I saw that I was in Kuo, or rather what was left of it. The whole place looked completely destroyed. The buildings were crumbling, there was fire everywhere, and there was some sort of red dust. I wanted to touch the red dust but decided against it. Who knew what could happen if I did? What happened to Kuo? Why was everything destroyed? What happened? What did? I didn't get to finish my sentence as I felt the ground beneath me shake and rumble. I quickly looked up and saw two massive beings clashing together. Both figures looked bipedal, but one of them had a very long tail. I watched in horror and awe as they fought. This went on for a few minutes before one of them spoke. But why are you doing this? One figure asked. The other figure didn't respond. Why would you spare those who have? The first figure paused, still receiving no answer. Step aside. Once again, nothing. I then heard the other figure let out a loud and vicious growl. Then you shall die. The figure let out a loud roar, and my vision went black. Third-person POV. Aika's eyes shot open as she sat up in a cold sweat, waking Issei, who quickly looked at her. My love, what's wrong? He asked, noticing the fear in her eyes. She looked like she had seen something terrible. I'm all right. Aika replied. No, you're not, Issei said, grabbing her hand. Tell me what's wrong. Aika didn't say anything at first. She just looked down, holding Issei's hand tightly. He could tell that whatever she dreamt about was haunting her. Did it involve him? No, that couldn't be it. I just had a nightmare, that's all, she finally admitted. Issei stared at her, deciding to let it slide for now. He needed to do something to make her feel better later. An idea struck him, and he pulled Aika closer, pressing her against his chest. They say, what are you doing? She exclaimed, blushing. Just something that will help you sleep, he said with a smile. Aika blushed more as she snuggled into his chest, feeling safe with him. Slowly she closed her eyes. Thank you. As Aika nestled against him, Issei smiled and kissed her forehead. You're welcome. With that he closed his eyes and fell asleep as well. The sun began to rise, and Aika lay in her bed, sound asleep. Issei, however, was no longer in her bed. He was watching the rising sun. His gaze didn't leave the sun as his pupils suddenly changed and became slit. Issei's gaze soon turned to Aika, who was sleeping soundly. As lights started to enter the bedroom, some landed on Aika's face, causing her to let out a small groan. She slowly opened her eyes and yawned. Good morning, my love, Issei said with a slight smile. Aika rubbed her eyes and looked up at him, taken aback by the sight of his slit pupils but unable to help but smile. Morning. So, how did it feel snuggling into my chest? He asked, a teasing tone in his voice. Aika blushed slightly. It felt nice. You're really warm. Issei chuckled at her comment. Well, how about you go take a shower? Don't worry, I won't peek. Okay, Aika replied, still adjusting to the fact that Issei had changed so much. She got up and went to the bathroom to take a shower, but while she was there, she couldn't shake off the thoughts of the nightmare she had. She just couldn't get it out of her mind. It felt so real. Issei waited for Aika to finish in the shower, deep in thought about her nightmare. He knew it wasn't his place to pry unless she wanted to share, but a part of him warned him to be careful. She might discover the ritual. He didn't want Aika to get involved or try to stop him. As he waited, the door opened, and Aika walked out in her school uniform. Issei smiled at her. Do you feel better? He asked. Yeah, I feel much better, Aika replied. Good. Then Issei had an idea. Hey, how about I take you on a date later? Aika blushed at the suggestion. They had just become a couple, and a date felt sudden. Are you sure? Issei nodded. Yes, I'm sure. You are my love, and I will do whatever it takes to make you happy. Aika smiled, her cheeks still flushed. Okay, we'll go on a date after school. Issei smiled back. After that, he took a shower and got dressed, always keeping a spare set of clothes handy. They had breakfast with Mamako, who was excited to hear about their plans for a date. After finishing breakfast, they left Aika's place and headed toward Crow Academy. As they walked, Aika held onto Issei's arm and they exchanged smiles. Suddenly, they heard a noise. They turned to see a girl who had fallen to the ground. Oh no, Aika exclaimed, rushing over to help her. Are you okay? That looked like a pretty bad fall. Aika helped the girl up, and Issei noticed her veil had blown off in the wind, revealing her long blonde hair and green eyes. The girl smiled at them, radiating innocence. Thank you for helping me up. God bless you, she said. It's no problem, I just did what anyone would do, Aika replied. Noticed the girl's belongings scattered on the ground and began to pick them up. We haven't seen a nun around here before. Are you new to the area? Yes, I'm supposed to head to the church in this town, but unfortunately, I got a little lost, the girl said, giggling nervously. Issei raised an eyebrow. He remembered that the church was supposed to be abandoned. Isn't that place meant to be abandoned? Aika asked. Oh, is it? I was ordered to go there, the girl replied. It's okay, we can take you there. Aika said. Issei hesitated but decided to go along with it. Yes, we shall help you, miss. Asia. And if it wouldn't be too much trouble, she said. Issei smiled. It wouldn't be much trouble. Since you've introduced yourself, it's only fair I do so as well. My name is Issei. Nice to meet you. And I'm his girlfriend Aika, Aika added. Asia smiled at them. It's nice to meet you both. The trio began to walk toward the church. As they walked, Aika chatted with Asia while Issei remained quiet. They soon noticed a little boy ahead, crying. Issei saw that the boy had a scratch on his leg. Ouch, that's gonna hurt, he thought, realizing the boy was probably around 5 or 6 and not used to pain. Asia ran over to the boy and said something to him. Issei and Aika couldn't hear what she said, but then they saw a green glow appear from Asia's hands. Issei, is she a devil? Aika asked, wide-eyed. Issei shook his head. He could tell Asia was human. He remembered Rius mentioning sacred gears and pieced it together. No, she must have a sacred gear. A sacred gear? Aika asked. Artifacts created by God. It seems Asia's is used to heal people. They watched as the boy's injury vanished, making him smile as he thanked Asia. Issei and Aika approached as the boy stood up and ran off, waving goodbye. That was amazing, Asia, Aika said. Thank you. I just really like helping people and doing the right thing, Asia replied. Can I ask you something? Issei said. Of course, Asia responded. How are you able to heal people like that? Asia looked down, smiling. It's a gift from God. I'm an orphan and was raised in a church. I prayed every day, and one day, I found an injured bird. I rushed to help it, and a green glow appeared. God saw how kind I was and gave me this gift. I see, Issei said, intrigued. Shall we continue to the church? Aika asked. Oh, I nearly forgot that. Let's go, Asia replied. The trio continued their way towards the church, walking the rest of the way in silence. Soon, they arrived at the church, which looked abandoned. The walls were discolored with holes, the windows shattered, and it gave off an eerie feeling to Aika. Asia looked at Aika and Issei, then bowed to them. Thank you both so much. If it wasn't for you, I would have been wandering around lost. Both Aika and Issei smiled back. It's no problem, Asia, Aika said. Would you like to come in for some tea? Asia offered. Aika glanced at Issei, wondering if they should go in. Should we? Aika asked. I don't see Issei began, but then he sensed something. He grabbed onto Aika and Asia and jumped back just as a bullet whizzed past them. "Din, I missed," a voice called out. Issei's pupils narrowed as he looked toward the source of the shot. A young man with short white hair and red eyes, dressed in clerical clothing, stood there with a disturbing smile. "But don't worry, I won't miss a second time," the man said. Issei growled at him. "Who are you?" Issei demanded. The man grinned. "The name's Fried, your not-so-friendly neighborhood psychopath." Aika looked at Fried. "Why did you attack us? What did we do to you?" Fried chuckled. "Well, I was bored, and if you two are devils, then I gotta kill ya." Asia's eyes widened at the mention of devils. Fried noticed the rage in Issei's eyes. Despite being a psychopath, he found it somewhat intimidating. "Who is this guy?" Fried thought. "You nearly hit my girlfriend," Issei said, his voice low and dangerous. Fried scoffed. "That brown-haired girl is your girlfriend? Wow, you must have poor taste. She looks like..." Aika looked down, hurt by his words. Issei saw her upset expression, and his anger flared. He let out a loud roar, catching Fried off guard. "Now you've messed up," Issei shouted. Issei charged toward Fried with incredible speed, tackling him and slamming him into a tree. "Arg!" Fried exclaimed. "Aika!" Issei called out as he punched Fried in the face, knocking a tooth out and sending him crashing through the tree. Fried slowly got to his feet, gritting his teeth as he glared at Issei. "You son of a..." Fried attempted to attack Issei, but the black-haired boy easily dodged. Issei found it amusing as he continued to evade Fried's strikes, even when Fried tried to use his light sword. "Seriously? Is that all you've got?" Issei taunted. Fried rolled his eyes. "Oh yeah, you think you can do better?" A smirk grew on Issei's face. "Oh, but I can. How about I give you a demonstration?" With that, Issei unleashed a barrage of punches on Fried. The priest tried to block them, but only ended up hurting his own arms. "What the hell? Who is this brat?" Fried thought, bewildered. Meanwhile, Aika and Asia watched in shock as Issei overwhelmed Fried. Asia was scared by the brutality, while Aika was simply astonished. She had never seen Issei this angry before. Was it because Fried nearly shot her? Or because of what he said? Aika placed a hand over her heart, watching the scene unfold. "Issei!" Issei continued his relentless assault, shouting, "Muda muda muda muda." He punched Fried in the gut with such force that the priest was sent flying into another tree, breaking it and causing Fried to cough up blood. Fried struggled to rise, pain coursing through his body. Issei approached him, his shadow looming ominously. "I'm not done yet," Issei declared, his pupils narrowing further as he unleashed a powerful roar-type attack. Aika and Asia covered their ears as the attack hit Fried, sending him flying. When the dust settled, the destruction was evident. Trees were tossed everywhere, and the ground looked devastated. Such destruction," Asia murmured, looking at Issei. The kind person who had helped her was now a terrifying force. He's a monster," Asia thought, the word echoing in her mind, signaling a shift in her perception of him. Fried groaned in pain, unable to move. Issei stood over him, filled with hatred. He then raised his foot and stomped on Fried's head. "That is for calling my love a slut," Issei said, stomping again and causing a crater to form. "And that is for nearly harming her." He paused as a small blue glow began to appear in the black-haired boy's mouth. "And this is for existing." Issei slowly opened his mouth wide as a blue ring began to form out of thin air. Aika watched, worried, not wanting him to go too far just because of a hurtful comment. Before she could intervene, Asia charged forward. "Leave him alone, you monster," Asia shouted, catching both Fried and Issei's attention. At that moment, a bright green light erupted from Asia's hand, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. Issei roared, gripping a nearby tree, his fingers digging into the trunk. As the green light began to fade, both Issei and Aika uncovered their eyes. "Arg my eyes," Aika groaned. Issei quickly rushed to her side. "My love, are you okay?" Aika rubbed her eyes. "Why yeah, I'm okay, Issei." He checked her eyes, concerned. "Babe, I'm fine. My eyes are fine, Aika reassured him. I have to make sure. I don't want you to lose your appealing eyes, Issei said, making Aika blush. The black-haired boy chuckled, but then turned his attention back to where the green light had come from. He realized that Asia had used her powers against him, and he couldn't understand why she would do that after all they had done for her. Issei. Aika's voice broke his thoughts. Yes, my love, he replied. Where did Asia go? Issei fell silent, pondering the same question. I'm not sure, but I'm sure she is all right. Oh, okay, Aika said. Come, let's get to school, Issei suggested, and they began to walk, both lost in thoughts about Asia. Later, they stood in front of the Occult Research Club. The Occult Research Club? Aika asked. Yep, Issei confirmed. He had a feeling Rius would want to know what he had been up to lately. He had mentioned the presence of devils at school but hadn't revealed their identities to Aika, not wanting to overwhelm her. You're saying that the devils are here? Aika asked, looking at him. Issei nodded. Yep. But the only ones here are Rius and her members, so you're saying that they are the devils, my love. I just fought a strange priest who had a friend capable of healing injuries. Are you really surprised by this? Aika pouted, crossing her arms, and Issei chuckled, kissing her cheek, making her blush slightly. They entered the club room, where Rius and her peerage greeted them. There you are, I've been wondering where you Rius started, but then noticed Aika. Why is Aika here? Oh, just took her to see Kuo Academy's devils, Issei replied. Rius and her peerage were shocked that a human now knew of their existence. How does she know? Rius exclaimed. Simple, I told her, Issei said, which shocked them even more and angered Rius. She couldn't allow Issei to reveal their secrets to humans. Kiba, Rius called, and Kiba stood up from his seat. Issei growled at him. Don't even think about it, pretty boy, he warned. Rius stood up from her desk. Issei, we can't have a human know about our existence. You're an exception because you're not human. She turned to Aika. We have to either erase her memories or... Aika's eyes widened, and she quickly hid behind Issei, who glared at Rius. Their eyes locked, and Rius felt the intensity of Issei's fury directed at her. She took a step back, realizing she didn't want to provoke him further. But the crimson-haired girl soon realized something. She had just realized that Issei was protecting Aika, which he never did before. Rius, why are you defending her? You never did such a thing. Issei snorted as he took Aika and held her close to his chest. Issei, what kind of boyfriend would I be if I didn't defend my girlfriend? Silence filled the room as no one said a single word. Both Issei and Aika blinked as they waited for someone to say something. Aika, I think you broke them. Issei, not sure why, announcing that two people are together isn't really that shocking. Aika looked at the black-haired boy. Aika, yeah, but it's you, Rius and her peerage. Aika was cut off by Rius and her peerage, who finally snapped out of their daze. Issei, do you have to be so loud? Rius, well sorry, we didn't expect you two to be together. Issei deadpanned. Issei, why is that so shocking? Akino, well, it's just that. It's you and... It's Aika. The black-haired boy looked at Akino with his slit pupil eyes, causing her to shiver. Issei noticed and sweat dropped. Issei thought, geez, she is weird. Aika poked her head from around Issei, on guard because she didn't want to fight. She was only human, she didn't have magic or powers like Issei did. Aika, if it's okay, I won't tell anyone. I promise. Rius began to think for a moment. She didn't want to agree with this, but she had no choice. If she tried anything, she would have to deal with a very upset Issei. Since she had no clue what Issei really was, all she could do was befriend him and make him an ally. She knew there was no way he would become a devil, even if she offered her own body to him. All Rius could do was keep him calm and try to be friendly. After some thinking, Rius let out a small sigh. Rius, very well, she can stay. Aika smiled at Rius and bowed. Aika, thank you, Rius senpai. Issei growled slightly when Aika called Rius senpai. He didn't like that. The brown-haired girl noticed and kissed his cheek, shocking the others. Aika, You're always my big teddy bear. Issei snorted and nuzzled Aika's face, making her giggle. Somewhere far from any civilization, deep within a dark jungle, stood an ancient and mystical temple. The temple was old and run down, obviously having been around for many years. There were cracks, and pieces of the temple were broken off. A massive tree grew through the temple, along with other plants. Perhaps it was made by the very first humans created long ago. No one was really sure who made the temple, it was just there. It was peaceful with the sun shining, birds singing, and flowers blooming. But that all changed when a sudden bright green light appeared, and from that light came two people. The first was Freed, who landed on the ground and groaned from the pain. His entire body felt broken from his fight with Issei. Actually, it was more of Freed being used as a punching bag. The second person was Asia, who fell to her knees and breathed heavily, sweating a lot. Asia thought, what happened? The blonde-haired girl looked at her shaking hands, unsure of what came over her. Suddenly, she looked over at Freed, who groaned in pain. Asia, are you okay? Freed coughed. Freed, well, if you don't count the fact my entire body feels like it's destroyed, then yeah, I'm doing perfectly fine. Asia quickly started to use whatever strength she had left to heal Freed. She didn't know why she felt so tired and weak, but her mind was focused on someone else. She thought he was a kind boy, but it turned out he was nothing more than a monster. Asia hated killing. No one should deserve to die. Sure, there are some bad people in the world, but deep down, they all have good inside them. They are just scared to bring it out, afraid of what others will think. But the blonde-haired girl knew that Issei had no good in him. Not anymore. He had been so kind, so gentle. But all that went away and was replaced with monstrous instincts. He had no pity for Freed, he enjoyed seeing the priest suffer. Freed had done bad things only because he wanted to protect people. He acted like a psychopath to scare others, but he was actually gentle. Asia knew one thing now, Issei had to pay. He had to disappear. For good. Asia thought, someone has to stop him, or else he will hurt others. All the innocents, all those who deserve to live. I won't let him take their lives. While Asia was deep in her thoughts, she and Freed heard a voice. I agree with you, Asia. That monster must be stopped. Asia was taken aback by the sudden voice. She turned to where it came from and saw someone. It was Tiiamat. The blonde-haired girl was worried that the primordial mother would try to attack them, so in an act of bravery, Asia stood up and protected Freed. Asia, please don't hurt us. Tiiamat simply smiled at Asia. Tiiamat, I will not hurt you, my children. Asia, why you won't? The primordial mother nodded as she looked at Freed, who was still on the ground. Tiiamat, how is he doing? Asia glanced at the white-haired priest. Had managed to heal him a little, but she knew it wasn't enough. If only she were stronger, Freed's life wouldn't be at risk. Asia, he's okay, but I'm not sure for how long. Tiiamat raised an eyebrow. Tiiamat, were you not able to fully heal him? Asia shook her head. Asia, I somehow used a lot of power bringing us here. I didn't even know how I did it. The blonde-haired girl was confused. She had always been able to heal people, but now she had teleported herself and someone else to a random location, which took a toll on her. Asia wondered if Tiiamat knew what was going on. Asia, Mississippi, Tiiamat, my name is Tiiamat. The primordial mother. Asia, well, Miss Tiiamat. I was wondering, do you know how I was able to teleport here? Tiiamat smiled at her. Tiiamat, because this is where you shall reawaken as your true self. This confused Asia. Asia, what do you mean? Tiiamat only smiled. Tiiamat, you see, my dear, you are the reincarnation of a powerful being, one on par with me. Asia was even more confused. She didn't understand, she was only human. Asia, but I'm only human. Tiiamat shook her head. Tiiamat, no, you are not. She then pointed at something. Asia looked where Tiiamat was pointing and saw an ancient painting on one of the temple walls. She stared at the painting in awe. It depicted a appealing moth-like creature with enormous wings. Asia, whoa, what is that? Tiiamat smiled. Tiiamat, this, my child, is Mosura or Mothra. The divine moth. Asia, Mothra. Suddenly, Asia's head started to hurt. She grabbed her head as it felt like her mind was being overwhelmed. Tiamat noticed and understood. Tiamat, no, don't fight it, Asia. Asia listened, allowing herself to receive a vision of the same moth creature. Asia gasped and looked at Tiamat. Asia, it's true. I am Mothra. Tiamat nodded. Tiamat, yes, you are. You are the only hope this world has now. Asia, hope. Tiamat nodded. Tiamat, yes, you are the only one who can defeat that monster, Issei. Asia's eyes widened at Tiamat's words. She couldn't believe it. She was the world's only hope to defeat Issei and protect innocent people. Asia, why can't you do it? Tiamat sighed. Tiamat, I tried, I thought I had beaten him. But he somehow got stronger. Asia gulped. Asia, how strong is he? Tiamat, if he is not stopped, the entire world will be destroyed by the end of next week. Asia's eyes widened at the thought of so many innocent lives being lost. Asia, there has to be a way to stop him. Tiamat, there is. The primordial mother pointed at Asia. Tiamat, you are. Asia stared at the rocky ground, processing this. Asia, how? Tiamat, you will go through a metamorphosis, one that will reveal your true form. Though it may take some time, Asia interrupted, determination in her eyes. Asia, I don't care. Tiamat was taken aback by her sudden resolve. Asia, I'll do it. We need to stop that monster. Tiamat, I see. But you know that you will not be human anymore. Asia, I don't care about my humanity. All that matters are the innocent lives. There are good people in the world who don't deserve to die. No one does. Asia clenched her fist. Asia, let's begin the metamorphosis. Tiamat smiled at Asia's words and nodded. Tiamat, yes, let us begin. Meanwhile, Issei and Aika were making their way to Issei's house, holding hands as they walked. They had just left the occult research club after Aika learned about the supernatural, while Issei kept an eye on Rius to ensure she didn't cause any trouble. Issei didn't care who Rius was. No one would harm his girlfriend. He wanted to spend time with Aika, go on dates, travel the world, and maybe even start a family. Aika looked at Issei and smiled. Aika, that was fun. Issei, I guess so. Aika tilted her head, sensing something was off. Aika, what's wrong? Issei, nothing. Aika pouted. Aika, tell me. Issei, nothing's wrong, my love. Aika began to poke Issei's cheek playfully. Aika, I can tell something is wrong, tell me. No. The black-haired boy hesitated but knew she wouldn't give up. Issei sighed. Issei, fine, I'm just worried that Rius might try something with you. Aika was taken aback. Aika, what do you mean? Issei, well, she altered my parents' memories to make them think she was staying over at my place. Aika was surprised by this powerful ability and realized it meant Rius had spent the night with Issei, which made her feel jealous. Aika, she did. What? Noticing Aika's discomfort, Issei decided to calm her down with a kiss on the forehead. Issei, she didn't do anything to me, my love. You are the one for me. Aika began to blush, momentarily forgetting her jealousy. Aika, really? Issei chuckled. Issei, of course. How about I take you to grab some ice cream before we head to my place for dinner? Aika was surprised by the invitation but felt joyful. Aika, okay. Issei smiled as they walked off to get ice cream, Aika holding his hand tightly. Aika liked her lips, eyeing the ice cream, and Issei chuckled. Issei, you like ice cream? Aika nodded eagerly, she loved it. Issei, well, enjoy it, my love. Aika, thank you. Thank you. As Aika devoured her ice cream, Issei watched her with a smile, lost in thought. He was pulled back to reality when he noticed her empty cup, with traces of chocolate syrup. Issei, wow, you are one fast girl. Aika giggled. Aika, I know. Realizing the time, Issei said, Issei, it's getting late, we should head to my place. Aika smiled. Aika, okay. They got up from the table, and Issei paid for the ice cream before they made their way to his house. Aika was excited. It was her first time visiting. She had always wanted to meet Issei's parents, who she heard were very nice. When they arrived, Issei said, "Issei, well, we're here." Aika was in awe of the simple yet charming house. "Aika, wow, your place looks cool." Issei chuckled. "Issei, thanks." They walked to the front door, and Issei opened it, calling out, "Issei, I'm home." He heard his mother's voice in response. "We're in the dining room." They made their way to the dining room, where Aika finally met Issei's parents, Miki and Gorhyu. "Issei, hey mom, hey dad." Miki smiled at Issei. "Miki, hey sweetie. Welcome home." She then noticed Aika. "Miki, Issei, who is this girl?" Issei smiled. "Issei, this is Aika. She is my girlfriend." Miki and Goru's eyes widened in shock. "Miki, why your G-girlfriend?" "Goru, why you're kidding, right?" Issei shook his head and kissed Aika on the cheek, making her smile. "Issei, did that look like I was joking?" Both parents were silent, astonished that their son had a girlfriend. Miki approached Aika with a warm smile. "Miki, welcome Aika. I'm Miki Issei's mother." Aika smiled back. "Aika, it's a pleasure to meet you." Goru chuckled as he walked over. "Goru, I am Gorhyu, Issei's father. So, how did you and Issei meet?" Aika blushed. "Aika, we were classmates. I gave him a letter and he figured out it was from me." Goru chuckled, looking at his son. "Goru, I must say, son, you picked a good one." Issei rolled his eyes, and Miki took Aika's hand. "Miki, oh, please tell me you're staying for dinner. I'll make something special." Aika smiled. "Aika, actually, I'm staying the night with Issei." Goru laughed. "Goru, that's my son." Issei sighed, shaking his head at his father's antics. "Issei, yeah, we're going to my room. Can you call us when dinner's ready?" Smiled at her son. "Miki, of course." With that, Issei looked at Aika and told her to follow him. The black-haired boy led the brown-haired girl up the stairs and towards his room. When they arrived, they entered, and Issei closed the door behind them. Aika smiled at her boyfriend. "Aika, your parents seem very nice." Issei sighed a little. "Issei, yeah, I apologize for my father's actions." The brown-haired girl waved it off. "Aika, it's okay, babe." Issei smiled as he and Aika sat on the bed together. At that moment, the brown-haired girl got an idea. "Aika, hey, I came up with something. You want to hear it?" This got Issei's attention. "Issei, sure." Aika smiled as she closed her eyes and began to sing a lullaby. Issei listened to Aika's song with a smile. It was the most appealing thing he had ever heard. However, his pupils soon became slit as he sensed something and growled. This got Aika's attention. "Aika, babe." "Issei, something's coming, get behind me." Aika didn't waste a second and got behind Issei, wondering what he sensed. Suddenly, a very familiar red magic circle appeared on the floor. From the magic circle emerged Rius Gremory. "Issei, Rius, why are you here?" Rius stared at Issei as Aika came out from behind him. "Aika, is something wrong?" Rius climbed onto Issei's bed and pinned him down, shocking both Issei and Aika. "Rius, Issei, please. You have to help me." Issei raised an eyebrow. "Issei, excuse me." "Rius, I need your help urgently." Issei and Aika's eyes widened. "Both, what?" "Issei, what are you talking about?" "Rius, if you don't, they'll arrange a marriage for me." That got both Issei and Aika's attention. "Issei, who will marry you off?" Suddenly, another magic circle appeared, this one purple instead of red. Issei sighed. "Issei, what now?" From the magic circle emerged an appealing young woman in her early 20s with long silver hair and red eyes, wearing a blue and white French maid outfit. Issei and Aika raised their eyebrows at the sudden arrival. The maid looked at Rius and sighed. "Maid, really, Rius? You're here with this lowborn. You realize Surzex will be disappointed in you." Issei's eye twitched at her words. The maid then noticed Aika. Maid, a lowborn and a human. Rius, you know the supernatural must be kept a secret. Issei let out a small growl as Rius got off him and stood up. Rius, my choices are mine to make. I won't let anyone disrespect my friend. The maid sighed. Maid, even so, we have to erase their memories now. Aika's eyes widened. Issei had enough of this and stood up, glaring at the maid. Issei, if you even think about touching my girlfriend, I won't hold back. The maid was taken aback by Issei's hostility. To Aika and Rius, he was just a teenage boy, but to the maid he seemed much more intimidating. Maid, what is this human? No, he can't be human. He's a monster. The maid gulped and tried to calm herself down, then bowed. Graphia, I apologize for my words. I am Graphia, wife to the great Devil King. Issei snorted. Issei, yeah, you better be sorry. Aika grabbed Issei's hand. Aika, Issei, calm down. It's okay. Issei looked at Aika and nuzzled her face, surprising both Graphia and Rius. Rius, I will listen to what you have to say at my headquarters. Would you mind if Akino joins us? Graphia nodded. Graphia, of course not. Rius looked at Issei and Aika, then bowed. Rius, Issei, Aika. I would like to apologize for what happened. Aika smiled at Rius. Aika, it's okay, Rius. Rius smiled, but she soon paled as she saw Aika glare at her. Issei just smiled at Aika, unbothered by the tension. Aika, but never do it again. Issei is my man, do I make myself clear? The crimson-haired girl gulped and nodded quickly, not wanting to anger the brown-haired girl any further. Rius, see Crystallimum. Aika, good. Rius chuckled nervously. Rius, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. With that, both Rius and Graphia disappeared into the magic circle. Aika sighed, and Issei smiled as he nuzzled against the brown-haired girl. As he did this, his pupils slowly returned to normal. Issei, you know I could have handled that by myself. Aika smiled and kissed Issei's forehead. Aika, I know, but what kind of girlfriend would I be if I didn't protect my boyfriend? Issei chuckled, feeling grateful that he accepted Aika's feelings. If he hadn't, he wouldn't be with the most appealing girl. Issei, I'm really glad you sent that love letter. Aika, why is that? Issei smiled. Issei, because now I'm with the most appealing girl in the entire world. The brown-haired girl blushed at Issei's words. Aika, beep, I'm not as appealing or popular as Rius or Akino. Issei, that doesn't matter. He cupped Aika's chin. I love you the way you are, that is all that matters. My love. Aika was left speechless by Issei's words. She then grabbed him and kissed him on the lips. Issei wasn't surprised, he had a feeling it would happen. He kissed back, placing his hands around her waist. As Aika closed her eyes, Issei kept his open. His pupils glowed yellow, determined to protect his mate. If anyone dared to harm her, he would unleash his power and make them pay. The sun began to rise over Kuro, signaling a new day and new possibilities. As the students of Kuro Academy went about their routines, Aika and Issei headed toward the Occult Research Club, seeking answers about Rius's behavior the previous night. Aika looked at Issei. Aika, hey babe. Issei, yes babe. Aika, when we get there, can you not try and cause any trouble? Issei went silent, contemplating. He felt a strong urge to confront someone, but he didn't want to traumatize Aika. Issei, okay babe. Only for you. Aika smiled and kissed Issei's cheek, causing him to smile back. Soon, they arrived at the Occult Research Club. Issei opened the door, and they entered the clubroom, greeted by Rius, Akino, Kiba, Kaneko, Graphia, and another unfamiliar face. The newcomer was a tall, handsome young man in his early 20s with short blonde hair and dark blue eyes. He wore a burgundy blazer with gold embroidery, matching breathes, and black dress shoes. Underneath his open blazer was a white dress shirt that was not fully buttoned. Issei narrowed his eyes, sensing something strange about the man. It smelled similar to Rius and Graphia but also different. He instinctively moved Aika behind him. Rius looked over at them. Rius, oh Issei Aika. You're here. Issei, yeah, you owe us an explanation about last night. Rius nodded, ready to explain, but someone interrupted. Issei's gaze shifted to the blonde man. Issei, but first, who is this? Graphia, this is Lord Riser Phoenix. He is a pure-blooded devil of noble Biarch, the third heir in line for the House of Phoenix. That caught Issei's attention. A phoenix, an immortal bird from Greek mythology, known for its ability to regenerate. The concept of immortality intrigued him. Aquino approached Riser and offered him tea, which he accepted with a compliment. Riser, lovely. The tea prepared by my Rius's queen is most delicious. Aquino, thank you for the compliment, sir. As Aquino walked away, Riser began to play with Rius's hair. Issei stood with his arms crossed, feeling detached. It wasn't his business, and he and Rius weren't close. Even so, he couldn't shake off his indifference toward Rius and her friends. However, the black-haired boy didn't care what Riser was doing. Aika, on the other hand, was a different story. She didn't like the way Riser was treating Rius. Hey, don't touch her like that. Aika shouted. Riser looked at the brown-haired girl, sensing that she wasn't a devil. Why is a human in the presence of Riser? Get this disgusting creature out of my sight. Issei growled as his BLD began to boil. How dare he say that about his mate? Rius noticed Issei's growing anger and needed to redirect Riser's attention before he did something he would regret. Enough. Riser, for the last time. I will not marry you, Rius declared. The blonde-haired man grabbed Rius by the chin. For the final time, Rius, Riser bears the reputation of the House of Phoenix. Besmirching our good name is unacceptable. Hey, chicken breath, she said she doesn't want to marry you. Aika interjected. Riser's expression turned annoyed as he looked at Aika. Silence, you disgusting insect. Then, in a shocking turn of events, he slapped Aika across the face. Everyone but Issei gasped in shock as Aika fell to the ground, holding her cheek while Riser stood over her. I think it's time to teach you a lesson, then you will learn your place, Riser sneered. Time seemed to slow down as Issei's growl intensified, his eyes glowing bright yellow and his teeth transforming into fangs. How dare he slap his mate? No one touches his mate and gets away with it. Graphia was about to scold Riser for his actions, but before she could, what happened next shocked everyone even more. A loud chomp echoed as Issei bit Riser's arm, his fangs sinking into the blonde-haired man's flesh. Riser screamed in pain, trying to free himself. Let Riser go. This only made Issei bite down harder, and Riser screamed in agony as Issei threw him to the other side of the clubroom, tearing Riser's arm completely off. BLDs splattered everywhere, some landing on the wall and on Issei's face. Everyone, including Aika, was stunned by Issei's actions. They saw the hatred in his eyes. He wasn't just angry, he was furious. Graphia stared at Issei, recalling her earlier thoughts. I was right, this boy is a monster. I must inform Surzex about this. Riser slowly got up, regenerating his arm. Though he had regained his limb, it still hurt. He glared at Issei, who began to swallow Riser's entire arm, leaving everyone with the urge to turn away. How dare you attack Riser? Riser shouted. Issei glared back. Shut up. Those two words sent a shiver down Riser's spine, causing him to take a step back in fear. Was he really afraid? Issei was just a human, right? What the hell is this human? Why is he making Riser afraid? Issei growled at Riser. How dare you slap my mate? He then turned to Graphia, who was about to intervene, but one look from Issei made her freeze. Tell your so-called Devil King. This wedding is over before it even begins. What do you mean? Graphia asked, confused. Issei didn't respond as he began to change. A large shadow loomed over Riser as he and the others watched Issei grow to 6 feet tall, his hair turning pure white, his teeth sharpening further, and his fingers and toes transforming into claws, ripping his shoes and shirt. Dorsal plates and a tail appeared, leaving Rius and the others in shock and fear. They couldn't sense any magical power, but the pure bloodlust radiating from the now white-haired boy was terrifying. Riser gulped in fear, losing color as he saw the rage in Issei's eyes. He had never seen the Devil King angry before, but he could easily say that Issei's fury was far worse. What are you? Riser stammered. Issei grinned sinisterly as his dorsal plates began to glow a menacing blue. I'm the Hyoudou Apocalypse, and for slapping my mate, your punishment is. Issei's mouth glowed blue as he opened it, several blue rings appearing. The ground shook as Riser felt the weight of his impending doom. However, before Issei could unleash his attack, he felt someone hugging his arm. Looking down, he saw Aika. Issei, I know he hurt me. But it's okay, I'm okay, she said softly. Issei was relieved that Aika was alright, but he still felt the urge to punish Riser. Babe, please. Don't kill him. I'm sure there is another way of punishing him, Aika pleaded. Issei hesitated, seeing the look in her eyes. With that, he made his decision. The rings slowly disappeared, and the blue glow faded as he closed his mouth and snorted. All right then. He then pulled Aika close, nuzzling her. The brown-haired girl smiled and kissed Issei on the forehead. I love you, she said. I love you too, Issei replied, then turned to Riser with a cold glare. Issei, listen up, Riser. The wedding with Rius is off, you got it. Riser was gonna protest, but since he nearly died. The blonde-haired man decided to not say anything and simply nod his head. Rius gasped as small tears gathered in her eyes. She was free. She doesn't have to marry Riser, she can marry whoever she wants. The crimson-haired girl was so happy that she wanted to thank Issei. But Rius decided that she will wait, she didn't want to PSS him off. Grafia was also shocked. She expected things to go wrong and would have to suggest another way for Rius to get out of the marriage. The silver-haired maid looked at Rius. Grafia, Rius, what is he? Rius was silent at first as she watched as Riser left in a magic circle. The crimson-haired girl then watched as Issei held Aika close to his chest. Rius looked at Grafia. Rius, he is a singular point, Grafia. He is a singular point. End of chapter. Chapter end. Third-person POV. The sun began to rise over the town of Kuo. It was early, so the air was still cold and only a few people were up. Then again, there shouldn't really be anyone up since it was like 4 or maybe even 5 o'clock in the morning, so the chance of people still sleeping was pretty high. But it didn't take long before more light began to shine as the sky was turning blue, signaling the morning. Meanwhile, at Aika's house, said brown-haired girl was lying naked in her bed with her boyfriend, Issei Hyoudou. The duo was snuggling together as they slept silently, but before long they were awoken by the sound of an alarm clock. However, the alarm clock was soon turned off by Issei, who groaned in annoyance. Issei, I hate those things. Aika couldn't help but let out her own groan, agreeing with the black-haired boy. They both slowly opened their eyes as Issei lay up, and the black-haired boy cracked his neck. Issei, ah, that felt good. Issei turned and looked at Aika, who soon laid up, not caring about the fact that she was naked. Why would she? After all, she and Issei had fun together. The black-haired boy smiled at the brown-haired girl. Issei, good morning, my love. Aika smiled as she kissed Issei on the lips. Aika, morning handsome, I had fun last night. Issei couldn't help but chuckle at this. Issei, yeah, what is this? A third. Fourth round. Aika smirked. Aika, fifth actually, Issei chuckled. He soon looked over at the alarm clock to check the time and saw that they had an hour or so before they had to go to school. Issei, I'm gonna take a shower, Aika smiled. Aika, okay, babe. The brown-haired girl watched as the black-haired boy got out of bed and began to walk off to the bathroom to take a shower. The warm water washed over his naked body. Issei smiled as this reminds him of his time in the ocean. Sure, he had to go through hell, but then again it was all in his head. The pain and suffering he went through weren't real, it was just in his head. Also, Issei isn't sure if he killed any sea life on his way back to the mainland. Maybe a pod of whales. He wasn't sure. Issei, this is nice. The black-haired boy heard a small giggle followed by some hands wrapping around him. Issei smiled as he looked back and saw Aika. Issei, hello, my love. The brown-haired girl looked up at Issei and smiled. Aika, hey. Issei turned around and kissed Aika on the lips. They kissed passionately for a few minutes as the shower water ran down their naked bodies. They really love each other deeply. As they kept kissing, Aika soon perked up as she felt something touching her butt. Aika, oh. The brown-haired girl smirked. Aika, looks like someone is excited, Issei chuckled. Lemon warning. Aika looked down to see Issei's 12-inch D-dash. She smirked as she got on her knees in front of the black-haired boy's monster pages. Issei stared at Aika, who liked her lips. The brown-haired girl used her right to grab the black-haired boy's D and started to SEK on it. Issei grunted as his girlfriend SE his pee-pee all the way down to the base. This went on for a while until the black-haired boy shot his long cream pie inside the brown-haired girl's mouth. Aika began gulping all of Issei's cum as she got off the black-haired boy's pee-pee and smirked. Aika. Delicious, Issei chuckled as Aika stood up before turning around and bending over. Aika. Now that I have had my breakfast, come F my butt. The black-haired boy smirked as he gave his girlfriend a good spank, making her butt jiggle and bounce slightly. Aika. Issei, you like it when I spank you? Aika nodded her head as Issei spanked her again, causing the brown-haired girl to She then looked back, staring into the black-haired boy's yellow eyes. Aika. Come on babe, show me why you're a singular point. One Issei smirked as he grabbed Aika's and shoved his monster pee-pee into the brown-haired girl's butt. This caused Aika to in pleasure as Issei began to move into her. Aika. So good, Issei continued to move into Aika as he spanked her butt, making the brown-haired girl more. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Both Issei and Aika stopped as they looked over at the door. Aika, is that you? The duo then heard Aika's mother's voice from the other side of the door. Mamako, yes sweetie, it's me. I came to tell you that breakfast is on the table, Aika. Oh, okay. The brown-haired girl looked back at Issei and nodded her head. The black-haired boy smirked as his pupils became slits. He then started to move into her very fast. Aika loudly as she stuck her tongue out. Aika, F-dash. Break my butt with your monster pages. Issei kept ifing his girlfriend for a few minutes. The sounds of wet slaps and rushing water filled the bathroom as the black-haired boy soon reached his limit. Issei, I'm gonna come Aika, yes. Come. With one final move, Issei poured his cum into Aika. The brown-haired girl's eyes rolled back as she loudly. The black-haired boy soon pulled out as some cum landed on her, but Issei smirked and gave her one last spank. Aika, I'll lemon over. Issei, that was fun. Aika nodded in agreement as she breathed heavily. She then looked at the black-haired boy. Aika, let's clean up, breakfast will get cold, Issei. Alright then. With that, Issei and Aika began to wash themselves. However, unknown to them on the other side of the bathroom door, Mamako heard everything and had a smirk on her face. Time skip brought to you by D1. Issei and Aika made their way into the ground of Kuo Academy, walking by people who were minding their own businesses. The brown-haired girl was holding on to her boyfriend's arm as they walked. They soon were greeted by Kiba. Kiba, oh, hello Issei. Aika, hello, Kiba. Issei grunted as the blonde-haired boy chuckled slightly. Looks like the black-haired boy still didn't trust anyone except for Aika. Aika looked at Issei. Aika, Issei, don't be rude. Issei sighed slightly. Issei, hello Kiba. Kiba, it's good to see you both. Rius hopes you both have had a good weekend. Aika smiled at the blonde-haired boy. Aika, we have indeed. How is she doing? Kiba, she is doing alright, but the ORC is getting clean so we won't be able to have our meeting there. Aika? Oh, that's not good. Do you have anywhere else you can have your meeting? Kiba shook his head. Issei just remained silent as he wanted to get this talk over with. He didn't trust anyone around Aika. Maybe he was overprotective, but when it comes to devils who will do anything to gain power or population, he wasn't taking the chance. Aika, I got an idea. Why don't you have the meeting at Issei's house? The black-haired boy blinked as he looked at his girlfriend. Issei, Kiba, have our meeting at Issei's place. Are you sure? Aika smiled. Aika, of course, I'm sure he won't mind. The brown-haired girl then looked at her boyfriend. Aika, do you? Issei stared at his girlfriend in silence. He was gonna say no. But he soon reconsidered his choice because this could help him in the long run. But for now, he will have to pretend that he has no choice. He let out a small sigh. Issei, alright then, they can use my house. But if they touch anything. Kiba, don't worry, Issei. We won't touch anything that's yours, the black-haired boy snorted. Issei, good. He then took Aika's hand and began to walk off with the brown-haired girl. They entered the school building and walked down the hallway in silence, but Aika soon spoke. Aika, you don't trust them, do you? Issei stopped walking as he slowly nodded his head. Aika, why? Issei, I don't want them to use you to get to me. They're devils, Aika. They will do anything for power. The brown-haired girl simply smiled and hugged her boyfriend. Aika, I know, babe, but I am a big girl. I can take care of myself, Issei. I know, but I can't take the risk. The black-haired boy felt his girlfriend gently caress his face. He looked at her as she gave him a warm smile. Aika, everything will be okay, I promise. Issei went silent, but it didn't take long before he sighed and smiled back at the brown-haired girl. Issei, okay. The two hugged each other, not caring if anyone saw them. Meanwhile, with Asia, Tiiamat, and Fried. Asia, this is it. The trio stood in a large stone room as there was a massive ritual circle on the ground, with different symbols that represented something. Tiiamat looked at the blonde-haired girl and nodded her head. Tiiamat, yes, this is the ritual circle that shall start your metamorphosis. Fried looked at the primordial mother. The priest had one of his arms in a cast. Fried, metamorphosis. I thought this was going to be like those BSRD devils reincarnations. Tiiamat shook her head. Tiiamat, no, this is different. When the ritual is complete, she will be infused with divine energy and will have to be sealed in a cocoon. That way her body can change and become Mothra once again. Fried, is it painful? Tiiamat, if Asia wasn't the reincarnation of Mothra, then yes, she would be in agonizing pain. But since she is, the metamorphosis will go smoothly. The primordial mother looked at the blonde-haired girl. She wondered if she was ready to begin. Once the ritual begins, there is no going back. She won't be human anymore. All the good times she had will be a thing of the past. Tiiamat, are you ready to begin, Asia? Tiiamat didn't get a response as Asia was deep in thought. The primordial mother and Fried waited for the blonde-haired girl to respond. However, it didn't take long before Asia looked at Tiiamat with determination within her eyes. Asia, I am ready, let us begin the ritual. Tiiamat, very well, lay down on the circle. The blonde-haired girl walked to the ritual circle and laid down on it. This was it. There was no going back now. Someone had to stop Issei before he killed everyone. This has to be done. She must become who she really is, the divine Mothra. 1. End of chapter. Chapter end. Third-person Issei let out a small sigh. The black-haired boy closed his arms as he had an expression of pure disappointment on his face. Issei, why did I agree to this again? He was sitting in the basement of his parents' house, but he wasn't alone. Aika was sitting next to Issei, and the Occult Research Club members were gathered in his house. Their clubhouse was being cleaned, so they needed a temporary meeting place. Aika, Issei's girlfriend, suggested his house, but Issei was hesitant. He didn't want to deal with his parents, especially since his mother had a habit of embarrassing him with baby pictures. He also didn't want to face Rius or Akino teasing him. That was Aika's job. However, Issei found it hard to resist Aika's pleading eyes and reluctantly agreed. Aika hugged Issei's arm. Because you love me, Issei sighed but smiled back. Yeah, I do love you. He glanced at Rius, who was sipping tea made by Akino. Should we get started? You're right. Let's begin with this month's contacts, Rius said, capturing the club members' attention. Akino, 11, Rius announced. Akino smiled in response. Kaneko, 10, Rius continued. Kaneko, busy with her chocolate bar, nodded. Issei often wondered how she could afford so many treats. Kiba, 8, Rius said, and Kiba smiled. Issei remained seated with Aika until his mother entered with food she had prepared. The club members thanked her, but then she brought out what Issei dreaded most, the photo album. Don't you dare! He exclaimed. Mickey giggled. Sorry, Issei. But I have to, don't. Issei protested as she opened the album, revealing embarrassing moments from his childhood. He tried to stop them from looking, but Rius had Kiba hold him back. Kiba, let me go. Issei shouted. Sorry, Issei. President's orders, Kiba replied. No. Issei groaned as the girls gushed over a picture of him in a lizard monster costume from his first Halloween. He had wanted to dress as a superhero but ended up with a costume that was a bit too big. As the girls exclaimed, Kawaii. Issei sulked in the corner. Someone. Kill me, he muttered. Kiba was confused by the drastic change from Issei's usual intimidating demeanor to that of a sulking child. Aika noticed and walked over, patting Issei's back. Rius turned to the next page of the album, raising an eyebrow. Hey, Issei, who's this girl next to you? Issei stood up and approached the group, looking at the photo of his younger self next to a girl with orange hair. If I remember correctly, that was Irina. She was my childhood friend. Wait, you had a childhood friend? Aika asked, surprised. Issei nodded. Yeah, but back then I was stupid and thought she was actually a boy. Aika giggled, and Issei smiled at the sound of her joy. He felt a strong longing to protect that happiness. Are you serious? Aika asked. Yep, pretty stupid, Issei replied. Hey Issei. Kiba said, staring intently at the picture. What do you want, pretty boy? Issei asked. Kiba pointed at the sword in the background of the photo. Do you know about that sword? Issei crossed his arms, realizing Kiba was fixated on it. Don't know much about it. I think Irina's parents had it or something. Issei noticed a flicker of rage in Kiba's eyes directed at the sword, sensing a deeper connection between Kiba and the weapon. I guess anything is possible. Kiba mused. A few days passed, and life became simpler as Issei spent more time with Aika. They were enjoying their time together, but something was off with Rius and the others. Kiba had been acting strangely, often spacing out during their hunts for stray devils. In fact, he spaced out so much that Kaneko nearly got badly injured if it wasn't for Akino saving her. Currently, Issei and Aika were at the Occult Research Club with Rius. The black-haired boy was sitting across from the red-haired devil girl. Rius said, Holy swords are the most dangerous weapons against devils. Simply touching one burns a devil's body. More importantly, being cut by a holy sword means instant death for devils. The truth is, a holy sword can annihilate a devil. Aika was surprised by Rius's words. She had heard about the Great War between the three factions but didn't think there was a weapon that could annihilate someone just by touching it. Wow, that sounds kind of intense, she remarked. Rius nodded. It is. The fact that those who can use one are extraordinarily rare is the sword's biggest weakness. The church tried to raise people artificially, perhaps to wield Excalibur, so they could annihilate devils everywhere. She then looked away with a serious expression. It's known as the Holy Sword Project. Issei said, the Holy Sword Project. He felt like he had heard that name before. If what the Alaster said was true, then Issei had likely encountered this multiple times. No wonder he felt a splitting headache. Parts of his memories were still blurry and incomplete. Aika asked, the church must have kept this project a big secret. I'm guessing Kiba was a part of it. Rius nodded. He barely survived. Issei added, well, I guess it explains Kiba's behavior. He has a grudge against the holy swords, or rather, Excalibur. Excalibur, a legendary sword wielded by King Arthur Pendragon, was a holy weapon created through magic and alchemy. At some point, the original Excalibur was broken, and the pieces were made into 7 different swords, all named Excalibur. Issei sighed. Despite Excalibur being no threat to him or the ritual, he found the situation annoying. It was a waste of time, but if he had been through this before, there was no point in complaining now. Meanwhile, outside of an abandoned church, 2 figures in white cloaks entered the place to analyze it. One figure said, it would seem that this place was a battlefield. The other replied, rumor has it that it had something to do with the devils. It's getting late, the first figure said, removing her hood to reveal blue hair. She looked at her partner. Are you sure this is the right place, Irina? The one named Irina, with chestnut hair in twin ponytails, replied, of course, this is the right place, Zenobia. I used to live here 7 years ago, give me a little credit. She took out a photo showing her younger self with Issei and smiled. You think he remembers me? Zenobia said, I don't know, I do not know your friend. Let's just hope he isn't involved with the devils. Irina reassured her, oh, we don't have to worry. Issei doesn't believe in the supernatural, plus, he's harmless as a kitten. Zenobia raised an eyebrow at Irina's words, finding them doubtful. The sun rose over the town of Kuo, shining brightly on Aika's house. Issei was sleeping soundly in bed but was soon awakened by the sunlight on his face. He stirred slightly and opened his yellow eyes. As he laid back and cracked his neck, he realized two things. He was in his half-form, and he was completely naked. Looking down, he saw a large lump under the covers and lifted them to find Aika sleeping soundly and also naked. Issei thought, I'm naked in my half-form, and Aika is naked. He put two and two together and realized that they must have been NTMT while in his half-form. This was like the 5th or 6th time this had happened, and he was surprised Aika wasn't pregnant yet. Speaking of the brown-haired girl, she began to wake up. When she opened her eyes, she was greeted by Issei's muscular chest, which made her smirk as she looked up. Morning, handsome, Aika said. Issei chuckled. Morning, secretary. She sat up, revealing her figure, making Issei smile. I am so glad I have a CC mate, he said. Aika giggled. And I am glad to have such a handsome beau. Suddenly, she didn't feel well. She got up and ran toward the bathroom, prompting Issei to follow her. When he arrived, he saw Aika throwing up in the toilet. My love, are you all right? He asked, worried. Aika let out a slight groan as she seemed to finish throwing up and gave a small thumbs up. She offered a reassuring smile, but Issei could tell it was forced. Yeah, I think I am feeling much better now, she started, but was cut off as she threw up again. Issei walked over to comfort her. He stayed with her for a couple of minutes until Mamako arrived, having heard the commotion. Issei quickly shifted back into his regular form to avoid startling her. However, Mamako seemed unfazed by the situation. When she saw her daughter, she smirked and tossed a PRI test at them before walking off. Aika's face was bright red as she finally stopped being sick. Issei gently helped her to her feet. Are you all right now? He asked. Yeah, I'm okay, Aika replied, blushing as she looked at the PRI test her mother had given her. She had a feeling she knew why. Could you? Aika hesitated, and without wasting a moment, Issei stepped out of the bathroom to give her some space, closing the door behind him with a small sigh. You don't seem happy, a voice interrupted. Issei turned to see Mamako had returned. A small part of him wondered what she was doing, but he was too preoccupied to care. What's wrong, Issei? Mamako asked. I don't know what to do. He admitted. Oh, tell me why, she prompted. There could be a chance my lover is pregnant with my child. Issei exclaimed. And that is a bad thing because... Mamako raised an eyebrow. Issei sighed. I know we've been together for a while, but I haven't really thought about having a child or marrying her yet. Mamako crossed her arms. Is my daughter not appealing enough? Don't you dare finish that. Issei interrupted, glaring at her. His yellow eyes glowed in the dim hallway, sending a shiver down Mamako's spine. Your daughter is more than appealing. I will not hear those words about my lover from anyone, not even her own mother. So don't you dare think about finishing that sentence. Mamako gulped. Right, I apologize. What I meant to say is, if you really think that about Aika, then maybe you should consider getting engaged. Issei fell silent. The idea of engagement hadn't crossed his mind before. It didn't seem like a bad idea, but would it interfere with the ritual? He had all the time in the world, but he still needed to complete it. Otherwise, his entire existence would be for nothing. Should I do it? Should I marry Aika? He was torn, frustrated by his indecision. Do you really think I am worthy of marrying her? He asked. Mamako looked into his eyes, sensing his sincerity. Despite their earlier exchange, she could see how much he cared for Aika, and she knew her daughter felt the same way. Yes, I believe you are worthy of marrying my daughter. She cares a lot about you, and you care a lot about her, right? Issei nodded. There you go then, That's the answer to your question, Mamako said, stepping closer and taking his hands. Issei Hyoudou, you have my blessing. Issei blinked in surprise, unsure if he was dreaming. Just then, the bathroom door opened, and Aika emerged. My love, are you feeling all right? Issei asked. Aika nodded slowly. Is something wrong? Well, she said, blushing as she held up the PRGNSUI test, revealing a positive result. Mamako grinned at the sight while Issei was left in shock. Aika was PRGNT with his child. Mamako's gaze shifted to Issei, and he understood what she wanted him to do, ask Aika the big question. But why not? Shouldn't he wait until they had a few more dates? Time skip as Issei and Aika made their way toward Kuo High. He decided to hold off on asking her about marriage for now. He had a lot on his mind, especially the fact that his girlfriend was PRGNT. While many might choose to walk away, Issei was determined to support her every step of the way. Lost in thought, he was brought back to reality by Aika's voice. Hey Issei. He looked at her. Yes. Aika looked down, her expression thoughtful. Aika, I'm sorry. Say, sorry. About what? Aika, I should have been smarter. I thought I wouldn't get PRGNT. The tears began to rise in her eyes, and soon she was crying in front of Issei. This pain in his chest made him feel helpless. He hated seeing his girlfriend blame herself. Why did she think it was her fault? Issei wasn't mad about her being PRGNT. He would never be mad at her. Aika, this is all my fault. I am such a... Issei, enough. Aika's eyes widened as she looked up at him. He hugged her tightly. Issei, you are not to blame. Aika, but. Issei, no buts. You are not to blame. I'm not mad that you're PRGNT, in fact. He looked at her and gave a gentle, warm smile. Aika couldn't help but feel happy at the sight of it. Issei, I'm actually happy. This shocked Aika. She wondered if she was dreaming. She had hoped she was dreaming when she found out she was PRGNT, but she wasn't. She couldn't believe what she heard. Issei was actually happy about it. Did he want to have a child with her? Did that mean he wanted to marry her? Those thoughts raced through her mind as her face turned bright red. Aika, really? Issei smiled. Issei, yes, and I mean every single word of it. Aika stared into his yellow eyes, grabbed his face, and kissed him. Issei was surprised at first but soon kissed back. They shared a kiss for a solid minute before separating. Aika, I love you, Issei Hyoudou. Issei smiled. Issei, I love you too, soon to be. Aika Hyoudou. The brown-haired girl smiled as they continued their way toward Kuo, holding hands. When they arrived at the school, they noticed Sona Citri and her queen Tsubaki talking with two cloaked figures, one of whom had a sword. Issei narrowed his eyes as he caught a familiar scent, one he hadn't encountered in a long time. He sensed a powerful holy energy, guessing it was one of the 7 Excalibur fragments, which meant those cloaked figures belonged to the church. Aika stayed close to Issei as they waited, and soon the two figures walked off. Issei and Aika approached Sona and Tsubaki. Issei, what was that all about? Sona and Tsubaki were taken aback by their sudden appearance but soon sighed in relief. Sona, Issei, can you not do that? Issei crossed his arms. Issei, well, can you tell me why 2 people from the church were here? Sona, they wanted to talk to Rius about something. Issei raised an eyebrow. Issei, what did they want to talk about? Sona, something important, but they didn't tell me. Aika looked at Issei. Aika, one of them had an Excalibur piece, right? Issei nodded. Aika, then maybe they are warning Rius not to interfere. Sona, that could be a possibility. They must know that Kuo is devil territory. Issei snorted slightly. Devil territory. That wouldn't be the case. Forever. Soon everything would change, and the red dust would show everyone the catastrophe. They would fear the puppet master because Issei was the one pulling the strings. He didn't care about ruling the town or the world. That was a waste of time and a classic plot. He remembered reading many stories like that back when he was his old self. But he was no longer that, he was so much more. The sun began to set as Issei and Aika walked toward his house. He He didn't want to return because he found his parents annoying. He thought about how he could end it all, but he couldn't for a few reasons. He didn't want Aika to see any violence. That was the last thing she needed. If he did manage to get rid of his parents, it would draw attention, and Rius would wonder what happened. Issei knew she didn't fully trust him because she didn't know what he truly was, which was good. The less she knew, the better. But even if she did decide to snoop, Issei could handle her and her so-called Devil King brother. After all, he had defeated the primordial mother, Tiiamat. If he could defeat someone like her, then no one would stand in his way. A small smirk grew on Issei's face as he continued walking, holding Aika's hand. As they drew closer to his house, he suddenly stopped in his tracks, picking up a scent. The scent belonged to the two cloaked figures Issei had seen at Kuo Academy earlier. They were inside his home. Aika looked at her boyfriend with a raised eyebrow. "What's wrong?" she asked. "It appears those two figures from Kuo are inside." Issei replied. Hearing this made Aika gasp. "Your parents must be in danger." "I doubt it, but let us proceed with caution and stay close to me," he said. Aika nodded as they approached the house, opened the front door, and went inside. They heard the sound of Issei's parents talking and laughing with someone in the living room. As they walked toward the source of the noise, they soon saw Mickey and Hyoudou sitting on one of the couches, with the cloaked figures from earlier sitting across from them. This time, their hoods were down, allowing Aika and Issei to see their faces. When Issei saw the chestnut-haired girl, he instantly remembered a picture of himself with his childhood best friend, Irina. She looked exactly like her, which could mean only one thing. It was Irina. This was troubling for Issei because not only was she part of the church, but she would likely ask questions about why he looked different. Issei's mother soon noticed the two and smiled. "Issei, welcome home. I see you brought Aika." The black-haired boy nodded as he looked at the two figures. The chestnut-haired girl smiled and waved at him. "It's good to see you again. It's been a while, hasn't it?" Irina said. "Yes, Irina, it has." Issei replied with a small sigh. Aika looked at her boyfriend. "Wait, isn't she your childhood best friend?" Issei nodded. Irina looked at Aika with a confused expression. Who are you?" she asked. "Oh, I'm Aika," the brown-haired girl replied. "Are you a friend of Issei's?" Irina inquired. Aika blushed and scratched her cheek. "Oh, it's more than that." Irina tilted her head. "What do you mean?" Issei sighed. "Aika's my girlfriend." This caused Irina to gasp in shock. "Your girlfriend? Since when?" "We've been together for a few weeks now," Issei explained. Irina's gaze shifted to Aika, who stared back with a serious expression, likely sensing Issei's tension. Issei couldn't blame her for being on guard. As long as she didn't threaten Aika, he wouldn't have any issues. "Anyways, I'm happy to see you again, Issei," Irina said, hugging him unexpectedly. Aika glared at Irina, feeling a pang of jealousy. She didn't like another girl hugging her boyfriend, but she knew Issei loved her and only her. Plus, she was expecting his child, which made her happy. Issei noticed Aika's jealousy and let out a silent sigh, realizing it was going to be a long night. All he wanted was to relax with Aika. Later, Issei sat on his bed, shaking his head. "That was annoying," he muttered. He had to deal with Irina's questions, and his parents had insisted on catching up with her. He was glad Aika was with him, otherwise he might have lost his mind. Now that Irina and her companion had finally left, he could relax. As Issei sat there, Aika walked over and hugged his arm, prompting him to look at her with a gentle smile. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah, I'm all right," he replied. Their eyes locked, and they leaned in, sharing a passionate kiss. Aika wrapped her arms around Issei, and he held her waist. They stopped for a moment, and Aika smirked at him. "Sorry, you won't be doing that," she teased. Issei chuckled, pulling her closer. They kissed again, deepening the connection as they lost themselves in the moment. Issei's hands soon went for Aika's skirt. He started to undo the button and pull down the zipper, taking her skirt off, which revealed her white panties. He admired the appealing sight in front of him, feeling like a lucky man. "You're very appealing, my love," Issei said, and Aika smiled at him. They began kissing once again, playfully fighting for Demps. As they kissed, Aika started unbuttoning his briefs, pulling down the zipper and removing them, revealing his black boxers. She tossed them aside, and they stopped kissing, staring into each other's eyes filled with love and longing. Issei nuzzled Aika's neck, making her smile. "I love you," he said. "I love you too," Aika replied, her expression turning playful as she gazed into his glowing yellow eyes. When she first saw his new appearance, she was taken aback, but now it only excited her. "Now be a good boy," she teased. "As you wish, my love," Issei smirked. The next day, Issei and Aika woke up cuddling together. They got dressed, ate breakfast, and went to Kuo. The day went on normally, but Kiba was absent, which caught Issei's attention. He guessed that Kiba was still searching for whoever had the Excalibur pieces, driven by a longing for revenge. Issei didn't know the details of Kiba's past struggles, nor did he care much about anyone else. His focus was on two things: completing the ritual and his love for Aika. When it was time to head home, Issei and Aika decided to stay at school. Issei sensed something at the Occult Research Club and wanted to check it out. "Issei, are you sure it's them?" Aika asked. "Yeah, it's them," he confirmed. They made their way toward the Occult Research Club, and as they approached the old school building, Issei kept Aika close. When they arrived, Issei knocked on the door. "Come in," Rius called. Issei opened the door, and both he and Aika walked inside, where they saw Rius, Akino, Kaneko, Irina, and her companion. "Sit. What are you doing here?" Irina exclaimed. "Isn't it obvious, Irina?" Her companion, Zenobia, replied, staring at Issei with a stern expression, her eyes locking onto his yellow eyes. And I'm excited to bring together multiple authors for this collaboration. If you need a break or choose not to participate, just let me know. There's no pressure to stay involved. Here's how it will work. The first half of this collaboration will take place in separate worlds, the prime world my setting and the others the settings of the participating authors. Each author will write about their characters going about their usual activities when suddenly, the Rodens appear through a portal. Your characters will need to fend off the invading Rodens. Once they successfully deal with the threat, they will have a reason to enter the portal and join the prime world. We'll focus on the second half of the collaboration at a later date. Let's stay safe and embrace the chaos that unfolds.